God for all this vitriol. If you feel like you're not being listened to when you...
Hang on. How's it going? Welcome back. I'm gonna finish this video really quick, and then I'll move some stuff over here. More usual game developer brain rot, victimizing themselves after they've essentially demonized their audience and are surprised that they're getting backlash. But anyway,
on Metacritic, or you complain on the forums of a studio, or you complain into the social media channels of the publisher or the studio, be aware that this stuff is carefully scrutinized, not just by the social media teams, also by the teams themselves. Arguably, in a lot of cases,
well, if you were scrutinizing it and paying attention to constructive criticism from, decades ago, you probably wouldn't be in the situation you are playing victim. It's really just that simple. Like, people at first were very, what you would say, calm and respectful about voicing their criticism, and then you guys your attack dog developers decided to take it personally and attack people, and then that's why they're getting attacked. You start it, you're gonna get it. It's not complicated.
Too great of a degree. The team is listening, I would say, often too much to what you are yelling about and complaining about.
Then why aren't they changing it? Then why do they keep adding in things that are weird, and why do they keep enforcing social, political issues that are divisive into the games? Why do they keep doing it then?
Well, obviously, because they want to get a rise out of people. They want to get a rise out of people. And in order to push their worldviews. It's the only way that they can get attention for it, is by antagonizing people. And, I don't know, these people are usually weird, and that's why they have weird behavior. It's not that complex.
It's not their decision.
That's why when anybody criticizes what they're saying, they get personal and tell you to go kill yourself. Like, this isn't normal behavior. Obviously, that's why it's foreign.
That's fine.
In these channels. But don't worry, you don't need to go onto their Twitter channel and yell at them directly, because they're going to hear it anyway. Be a human being, have some empathy, and stop being cruel. Stop throwing a party because a bunch of people lost their jobs.
No, screw that. You want to antagonize people and be an asshole, then yeah, people are going to be happy when you walk out the door. Obviously, if someone loses their job and they don't deserve it, people aren't going to throw a party. But, like, if you're going to sit here and you're going to antagonize your customer base, yeah, people are going to be happy when you're no longer here. It's not that complicated. But you can sit here and pretend to have the moral high ground all you want. It's still not going to change the fact that for almost a decade, game developers and directors and people in the gaming industry in general have been essentially posting racist things and personally attacking people and telling people that they should go kill themselves. So yeah, sorry, I don't have empathy for you. Go fuck yourself.
Because you don't know the circumstances that resulted in the thing that you're mad at. People deserve some grace. People deserve some empathy from you. And if you can't provide that, then stay off the internet completely. One last...
No, I don't think I will. I'm gonna be here for a long time, posting and bringing light to people that are being dickheads. Because if you're gonna be an asshole and then play victim, you're not gonna get empathy. These are the same types of people that would throw sand at you on the playground, and then the second you stood up for yourself, they'd go running to the teacher and cry and complain and be like, oh, Reikai hurt me. But meanwhile, for like the last 20 minutes, they're throwing fucking dirt at you and calling you names. But the second you turn around and you get fed up with it, well, now you're the villain and they're playing victim. Yeah, we got an entire industry full of these people. Everybody knows this. We all had this one kid in class, right? Come on. It's pretty common. But yeah, we'll finish this one and then let's actually put the videos on here, and I'll put the boring video game over here. Let me turn the sound off for the game just so it's less annoying. There we go. All right.
Time for the cheap seats. You are entitled to your opinion. You are entitled to be.
Well, apparently not. And like, we're entitled to our opinion until you decide that it doesn't fit your worldviews, and now apparently I'm a bigot, racist asshole because I didn't like how a certain dialogue went in a video game. Again, you can sit here and play the moral high ground all you want. Nobody agrees with you. Like, I'll go through the comments. And yes, because it's on Asmon's video, people are going to say, oh, well, these are obviously going to agree. No, in most cases, Asmon has a very 50-50 audience, and people tend to disagree with him quite often. So... Oh, hang on, I forgot I was editing some metrics here. Whoopsies. You don't need to see that. I'll bring it.
Angry about a game that you bought.
Yeah, sure.
You paid good money for it. But try to remember that it's just a game. Even more importantly, when you are...
Well, if it's just a game, then why are your developers turning it into fucking some kind of weird culture war? Or, sorry, their words, not mine. I know it's not an actual culture war. It's just a bunch of obnoxious, annoying people playing pretend freedom fighter. But, like, they like to constantly use this, oh, it's just a video game. Oh, it's just this. Well, if it was just that, then why are you making everything so personal all the damn time and going on tirades posting anti-Semitic racist shit? If it's just a video game, then just make the video games and stop being obnoxious assholes. Like, what are we doing here, guys? Like, give me a break. This intentional dishonesty really needs to stop. Like, it's obnoxious, it's disingenuous, and it's one of my biggest pet peeves is when people act in bad faith,
expressing your complaints. Stay away.
And are just constantly disingenuous because they start a bunch of bullshit and then they get mad when they get it back. It doesn't work that way. When you start a fight, people are probably going to swing back. That's usually what happens when you treat people with disrespect. You get it back. You can't just play fucking victim every time someone doesn't like when you're essentially throwing dirt at them. Get the fuck out of here, man. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? What a joke. What an absolute asshole this guy is. I guess I must have pissed someone off yesterday. Oh well, anyway. Sucks to be them, I guess. Don't like dirt at them. Get the fuck out of here. Alright, cool. We good, we live, we talking. I got 4 hours before I gotta go to work. I couldn't sleep tonight, so I figured let's do another stream.
Away from cruelty. Stay away from targeting individual people.
Tell them that.
Stay away from trying to cause harm. Stay away from celebrating harm done to actual human beings.
I think this is all bullshit.
Yeah.
I do. I think it's all bullshit. It absolutely is. Being cruel or whatever. The fact is that if you're going to push an agenda in a video game and people don't like the agenda, they don't like the video game. And this is even true, by the way, this is true with, I would say, most topics and most things. We're the fucking customer. Yeah, exactly. And I feel like this is...
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure most people agree that this is completely bullshit. We'll go through some comments here. Won't make good games. Cries. Yep. They insulted us for years. We screamed for them to listen to us. Now they cry. Whatever, man. Yeah. Exactly. You're not going to get any empathy when you essentially started this entire this entire thing many years ago by treating your customers like human garbage, posting racist things on social media, and telling people to go kill themselves. And now you want to sit here and call us the cruel ones for defending ourselves? No, fuck you. Go find a cactus, sit on it, and rotate. If they call gamers names, they dismiss legit issues by ignoring us and calling us haters, then they fail. Yeah. Imagine having a restaurant. Oh, I love these analogies because I use them all the time. Imagine having a restaurant you loved your whole life, and then suddenly the whole staff gets replaced by some of the most vile people that only serve you slop and make you feel guilty for hating it. How can you not cheer when they all get kicked out? Yeah. Yeah, no shit, eh? You know, these people came into companies that most people have been consuming content for a couple decades now. And the only reason that they're in the position these companies are up where they are is because of the money that their customers have given them for 2 decades. And then to turn around and use that goodwill and tell them after they've decided to change their worldviews over the last 2 years to go kill themselves, yeah, they're probably not going to like that. I mean, surprise, surprise. You disrespect people, they're probably going to disrespect you back. It's really not that complex, but I guess for these people it's too complex for them to understand. So, you know, when your head is nothing more than a decoration, I can understand why this would be confusing. Anyway, let's get some more. Refuses to make good game, doesn't make money, cries. You're entitled to your opinion unless I subjectively deem it's cruel. Yeah, right? Pretty much. Thanks for giving me permission to have an opinion. Also, just a heads up, charging $70 for a video game does not absolve you of people having criticism, right? Getting real tired of selective empathy. Yeah, like, nobody agrees with this guy. The gaslighting by this dude is nuts. Yes. That was the word I was looking for. Gaslighting. Game developers are literally making obscene comments about their customers with who they politically disagree, and then claim that the customer can't criticize them doing a horrible job in casting rocks in a glass house. Fucking thank you. This person is an absolute genius. Thank you for pointing out what I was trying to get the words out for it, but it's also 2 a.m, so my brain's a little slow right now, but yes, the gaslighting. Like, your fucking staff have been treating people like shit for years, and now you're acting shocked that they're getting it back. Yeah. Surprise, surprise. And once you're no longer in the position that you are, everyone's also going to cheer as you walk out the door too. So, see you later, you won't be missed, kind of deal. Let's see, we got some more? It's totally fine if you're angry, just don't express it. Here's the thing, the consumer pays $70 up front for a game. The money represents time work, then the consumer puts their own time into it. They waste their time if the game is shit. Yeah, I mean, like, and for the, like, in most cases, like I was saying, people were genuinely expressing constructive criticism at the beginning, and then the developers took it personally and decided to essentially harass their customers, and now they're crying that they're getting harassed. It's ridiculous. You know what they say, you fuck around, you find out. I guess these developers seem to have forgotten that. Writing the person that spit in your french fries to be fired is now cruelty. Right? Yeah, see, like, no one's on this guy's side whatsoever. We'll finish this video and then we'll move on to something else.
It's just how
here.
it's going to be with anything. If you're releasing a video game and you saw the guy sexual harassment someone on Twitch.
And by the way, when you release a product in the free market, you're probably going to get criticism. This is just what happens. Some people are not going to like your product. To start an entire tirade over that is ridiculous. Doesn't make sense to get mad. Oh, what's this? Sorry, I'm just...
LSF? No, I didn't see that. I have no idea. Like, I mean, if somebody's sexually harassing somebody else, then they should get banned. It's pretty simple, right? I mean, what are we even talking about? It's not really... Yeah, there's not really much of a conversation about that. Anyway, so, the devs shouldn't go for the woke studios. Well, it's if you're pushing a narrative like this, and you have people that are pushing opinions like this that people don't like, then you should expect to have people celebrate when those opinions get deleted. And also, these developers, in a lot of cases, make it personal. They're the ones that are making it personal, not oftentimes the players. And I think that players feel like they're being preached to and they're being talked down to in a lot of cases, and they feel like certain types of the game design, like, for example, like the body type 1 and 2 thing, why should a player be okay with that and not celebrate this going away if they don't like it?
100%.
Because if you don't like something, wouldn't it be a good thing that the thing that you don't like is taking an L? I would say so, yeah. And I think everybody knows that there's obviously going to be like collateral damage where it doesn't always like affect any one person or whatever. But that's it. Pokelaws went after you again, it seems, at LSF. Well, I'm glad he did. That's great. You know, maybe that'll get more viewers to his channel, and he won't have to keep acting weird. I mean, I honestly, here's really the truth, right? I've said a bunch of stuff about
I'm not going to touch that one.
I don't like what is it? Yeah, I don't give a shit. LSF, the GCJ clone. Well, I think that really this is the reality, is that a lot of people are going to be, and this is the way that streaming is, and it's always been like this, is that people have. But anyway, well, actually, let me just wrap this up. This is I'm getting distracted.
Yeah, we're going on a tirade here. Anyway, so yeah, BioWare devs are mad because no one bought their game, and they're getting surprised that people didn't like getting disrespected by their devs, and here we are. We're hamsters in a motherfucking wheel, as usual, always going back to the same thing, where these people just don't understand common sense. But anyway, the gaslighting was interesting and funny. Let's move on to some other events happening in the world here. Let's see, what do we got here? Gates of Hell will be opened. Oh boy, this should be interesting. Here we go. Israeli PM sends bold demand about remaining hostages. Alright, well. Okay.
You'll be a voice of clarity and courage on the world stage for the values that we in Israel, you in America hold dear, the values of freedom for all those who cherish liberty. You're already doing that, and I want to tell you that it's heard loud and clear here and everywhere else. Today, Secretary Rubio and I had a very productive discussion with our staffs on a number of issues. None of them are more important than Iran. Israel and America stand shoulder to shoulder in countering.
Oh man, what is this quality? Hang on. Jesus, you think that Fox could
the threat of Iran? We agreed that the Ayatollahs must not have nuclear weapons. And we also agreed that Iran's aggression in the region has to be rolled back. Over the last 16 months, Israel has dealt a mighty blow to Iran's terror axis. Under the strong leadership of President Trump, and with your unflinching support, I have no doubt that we can and will finish the job. We also spoke a great deal about Gaza. I thank Secretary Rubio for President Trump's assistance.
I'm sure they'll release the hostages, yeah, 100%. That was sarcasm for the people in the back.
In helping us secure the release of another 3 hostages yesterday.
Oh, sorry, 3. Man. I think people want the rest of them, not just a few at a time, but okay.
These are hostages that Hamas refused to support only a few days to release only a few days earlier. And I also thanked him for America's unequivocal backing for Israel's policy in Gaza in moving forward. I want to assure everyone who's now listening to us, President Trump and I are working in full cooperation and coordination between us. We have a common strategy, and we can't always share the details of this strategy with the public.
Oh, of course you can't, probably because there's some less than ideal things going on in the background.
Including when the gates of hell will be opened, as they surely will if all our hostages are not released until the last one of them. Israel is determined to achieve all the war objectives we set after the horrific attack on October 7th, the worst attack on Jews since the Holocaust. We will eliminate Hamas's military capability and its political rule in Gaza. We will bring all our hostages home, and we will ensure that Gaza never again poses a threat to Israel. The unequivocal support of the United States on Gaza will help us achieve these objectives faster and set us on a path for a different future. Secretary Rubio and I discussed President Trump's bold vision for Gaza, for Gaza's future, how we can work together to ensure that that future becomes a reality. We also discussed the situation in Syria after the collapse of Assad's regime, a collapse that was made possible by Israel's weakening of Iran's terror axis, especially the weakening of Hezbollah and the removal of Nasrallah. For over a decade before October 7th, Israel acted to prevent Iran from developing new terror fronts against us in Syria, right opposite the Golan Heights and deeper in Syria. And we conducted hundreds of airstrikes, perhaps 1,000, in order to prevent it, and we did. Now, if any other force in Syria today believes that Israel will permit other hostile forces to use Syria as a base of operations against us, they are gravely mistaken. Israel will act to prevent any threat from emerging near our border in southwest Syria. The Secretary and I discussed Lebanon as well. Israel is committed to the ceasefire understandings that were reached in November. We expect the government of Lebanon to be equally committed to their fulfillment. The scenes we saw this weekend in Beirut of UNIFIL forces being attacked by Hezbollah, this was not encouraging. The two UN resolutions that everyone refers to, 1559, 1701, well, they must be fully implemented. Hezbollah must be disarmed. And Israel would prefer that the Lebanese army do that job, but no one should doubt that Israel will do what it has to do to enforce the understandings of the ceasefire and defend our security. The Secretary and I also discussed how the many international institutions have been hijacked and turned into anti-American and anti-Israeli forums. We see that in the UN General Assembly, in the UN Human Rights Commission, where anti-Americanism is rampant, and more resolutions are passed about Israel than the rest of the world combined. And we see it especially in the lawfare that is being waged against America and Israel at the ICC, the ICJ, and elsewhere.
This is kind of getting boring.
The ICC has outrageously libeled Israel and issued arrest warrants.
Well, at least more hostages are being released. I'd really like to know where...
These are young, often young, but
Asmund gets these videos
super brilliant
from.
people, incredible computer.
But I'm sure the Orange Man's got a really great update for us, as usual.
Scientists and other things, and they're finding levels of fraud and waste and abuse like I think nobody ever thought possible. But before we do that, I just want to ask Will to come over. I've just finished signing some executive orders, and if we could start with that, Will, you might want to come up here and just explain what we did. Thank you.
Oh boy,
let's see it.
Good afternoon, y'all. A short while ago, President Trump signed three items. The first is an executive order relating to the affordability and availability of in vitro fertilization and other fertility treatments. These are treatments that have become unaffordable for many Americans, or have been unaffordable for many Americans. And the executive order is a directive to the Domestic Policy Council to examine ways to make IVF and other fertility treatments more affordable for more Americans. The second item that we signed was a presidential memorandum imposing radical transparency requirements on government departments and agencies.
This is good.
In keeping with President Trump and the administration's broader commitment to governmental transparency, what this presidential memorandum would do is require, as waste, fraud, and abuse is uncovered, as programs are canceled, and ultimately as taxpayer dollars are saved, this presidential memorandum would...
Oh, kind of like the taxpayer monies that was saved when you renamed the Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America. I thought Trump's whole thing was to not waste taxpayer money on stupid bullshit like sending money to Iraq for Sesame Street or something stupid. But then he decides to rename. He used taxpayer money to rename the Gulf of Mexico. It's just like, okay, you know, you were saying a few things that were making sense, and then you put tariffs on Canada and decided to rename the fucking Gulf of Mexico to, oh boy. But anyway, let
require departments and agencies to make all of the details of that freely available to the public.
Wow.
Lastly, we have another executive order that President Trump signed relating to independent agencies. This executive order would establish important oversight functions in the Office of Management and Budget and its subsidiary office, OIRA, supervising independent agencies and many of their actions, and also reestablishes the longstanding norm that only the President or the Attorney General can speak for the United States when stating an opinion as to what the law is.
Thank you very
I don't know about the last part of that.
That was the primary purpose
Yeah, that seems very technical.
This conference, to explain that they're all very important in their own way. Fertilization, I've been saying that we're going to
I don't understand
what we have to do, and I think the women and families, husbands,
this is the emperor
are
part?
very appreciative
Is that
of
it?
But that was it. I do want to say while I'm up here, I've been contacted by some of the biggest companies in the world, and because of what we're doing economically and through tariffs and taxes and incentives, they want to come back into the United States. And we'll be announcing various very large companies, the biggest actually, and they'll be coming back, having to do with chips and having to do also with cars and lots of other things. We're going to be announcing some very, very big, momentous decisions are being made by companies all around the world, the biggest, and they want to come back into the U.S.
That's good, right?
Car plants are being canceled in other locations now because they want to build them here. And you read about a couple, not that I want to mention names or anything, but you read about a couple of big ones in Mexico just got canceled because they're going to be building them in the United States. And that's very simply because of what we're doing with respect to taxes, tariffs, and incentives.
Yeah, I'm sure that's working out great for you. I'm not quite an expert on how tariffs work, but I know that, yeah, it seems like this is all good for America, but man, it sucks for the rest of the world.
And
more Doritos, yeah.
I think it's a very important thing, and you'll be seeing this over the next, probably over the next 2 years, to be honest. But
we're going to make Dorito factories so RFK can ban Doritos.
A lot of big ones are going to be announcing. And so while we're here, I guess we can take a couple of quick questions. Go ahead, please.
Okay.
So is this whole thing just going to be about the economy and stuff? Oh.
Have you decided specifically what the auto tariff rate should be?
Yeah, I probably will tell you that on April 2nd.
Yeah, I would like to know too. I would also like to know how genuinely fucked we are up here.
But it'll be in the neighborhood of 25%.
He's actually not doing anything on April 1st.
Pharmaceuticals?
It'll be 25% and higher, and it'll go very substantially higher over a course of a year. But we want to give them time to come in because, as you know, when they come into the United States and they have their plant or factory here, there is no tariff. So we want to give them a little bit of a chance. Yes, thank you.
The EU, Andrea Shalal, the EU representative is going to be here in Washington tomorrow. He's going to be meeting with Hassett and Greer and Letnick. What can the EU do to sort of avoid the reciprocal tariffs that you've talked about? And, you know, you've talked a lot about the VAT. Do you expect them to reduce that?
Well, they did already.
VAT,
as I
value-added
understand
tax.
it, reduce their car tariff all the way down to what we have, and a lot of that will take
Special
place.
thing
and
for
I think
Europe.
Some won't do it, and some will do it. But the EU has
I mean, people would buy more American cars if your cars didn't suck so bad.
a 10% tax on cars, and now they have a 2.5% tax, which is the exact same as us. So already we've saved a tremendous amount. That would be great if everybody would do that. Then it would-
Maybe they can use all this money they're going to make off the tariffs to actually produce some products that don't suck a bag of dicks.
all be
That's a
on
lot.
the same playing field. Because essentially what we're doing with the tariffs is, they charge us, we charge them, same amount.
I don't
And,
see how. Reciprocation's
It's
bad.
called reciprocal, actually.
Yeah.
And whatever they charge us, we're charging them. And so the EU is, I appreciate that they did this, but, the EU has been very unfair to us. We have a deficit of $1 billion.
Sorry
They
about
don't
that.
take our cars. They don't take our farm products. They don't take almost anything. They take very little. And
Well, why would countries that have their own agriculture spend extra money to take your products? That just sounds stupid. Not to mention, American beef is some of the worst beef I've ever tasted in my life. Like, your beef is so bad. Like, here in Alberta, we have great quality beef because of the way we raise our cows. Why would we want to spend extra money to buy lower quality stuff? Why you should be buying our beef because our beef is better than yours. But then again, now we got steel tariffs. I don't know what's going to happen. Like, Canada already sells the oil to the States and buys it back. I thought that was kind of like our way of supporting the American economy, but I guess that wasn't enough. But that might stop, and then I'm sure that's going to be great for both of our economies, but fuck me. And anyway, it just doesn't make sense. Like, if we already have good quality stuff, why would we spend extra money and detriment our own economy to buy more? Like, you need to give a value proposition in order for people to buy stuff. I thought this was just like we talk about this stuff with video games all the time. Anyway, just my thoughts on that.
we're going to have to straighten that out, and we will. I have no doubt about it. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Could you tell us a little bit more about the Russia talks, your impression of how they went today? and
That's
if
a great
you're
question.
More confident or
Yeah,
less confident
it's a really good
after
question.
What happened today?
I too am very curious about what the hell's been going on with Russia lately. It's been a little quiet over the last year since the Ukraine war started. Since we got distracted with other useless bullshit, as usually happens. But
Well, much more confident. They were very good. Russia wants to do something. They want to stop the savage barbarianism. I mean, what's going on over there?
And one more thing before
soldiers are
Very
being
not good.
killed by the thousands on a weekly basis. It's ridiculous. And they're not American soldiers. They're Russian soldiers, and they're Ukrainian soldiers largely, although a lot of Koreans have been killed, as you know.
It was like
Quite a bit of
10,000 or
them
something.
have been killed. They came over to fight, and a large portion have been wiped out. But we want to end it. It's a senseless war. It should have never happened. Would have never happened if I was
Yeah, it's
president.
North Koreans.
yeah, we can all agree war is bad. But I don't think Trump would have done anything more to stop the Ukraine war than... Well, actually, no, he probably would have done it more than Biden could have. Like, bro was napping the whole fucking time. But also, it probably would have been... It would have happened anyways. Like, let's be honest. Russia's run basically by a dictatorship, by an insane criminal who is getting to a point where he's getting to that age where I think he just wants to leave his mark on history, and he's willing to take entire countries down with him. So there's really no reasoning with insane dictators.
And it's a shame to see it. And I see pictures that you don't see, but
And I say this knowing full well that Canada is the closest country by ocean to Russia.
I see pictures of fields that look just horrible. It looks like Gettysburg. If you see the old pictures of Gettysburg, it's soldiers
fuck.
lying all over the field, body parts all over the field.
And we got a lot of Ukrainian people that live here in Canada. I'm one of them. my family are Ukrainian. So, you know, I could always see Putin turning his eyes on us, too. If, say, America stopped giving us the support that they did, it could be. I don't want to, you know, start making weird conspiracy theories. But if I were an insane dictator and I realized that the closest country by sea no longer had military protection by their neighbors, a hostile takeover could be a potential idea. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I try to understand basic things like, I try to understand things like this in order to prepare myself and other people. Now, I doubt it'll happen. Like, this is an extreme, oh shit kind of situation that, yeah, the Russians are attacking Canada. Like, I just don't
feel they're all.
It's an extreme
dead.
Thought.
And
anyway.
This is going on a daily basis. It's a horrible thing. Both Russia and Ukraine, they're losing thousands and thousands of soldiers, and a lot of people have been killed too. I think.
Now, obviously, if we went into World War III, then I could see that being a much more reasonable scenario to take Canada immediately. If I were a strategist, I think that's where my brain was going. Anyway, back to the video.
I think that's one of the things that you'll see historically, and you'll see later on as it goes along. I think people are going to be surprised at how many people, not only soldiers, have been killed in Ukraine. A lot more people than you think. Yeah, please.
That's actually just fucking sad.
President Trump, as part of a peace deal with Putin, would you be willing to consider removing all American troops from Europe?
There's no way.
Well, nobody's asked me to do that, so I don't think we'd have to do that. I wouldn't want to do that. But that question's never really come up.
Next.
Yeah. Please.
Sir, do you support stationing European peacekeeping troops in Ukraine as part of this peace deal?
If they want to do that, that's great. I'm all for it. If they want to do that, I think that'd be fine.
Even if the Russians are...
I mean, I know France has mentioned it. Others have mentioned it.
Yeah, it's
UK has mentioned
if
it.
If they want to do that.
Yeah,
sure.
Well, if we have a peace deal, I think having troops over there...
It's not our decision.
From the standpoint of Europe, we won't have to put any over there because, you know, we're very far away. But having troops over there would be fine. I would not object to it at all. We're talking about this now peace. We have either a ceasefire or a peace itself, and we're looking to do both. We'd start off with the ceasefire, and if they want to do that. I know France was willing to do that, and I thought that was a beautiful gesture. Yeah, please.
Do you have any message for Ukrainians who, after 3 years of fighting, might feel betrayed or disappointed at not having a seat at these initial talks in Saudi Arabia?
Well, I think I'm really disappointed
Hang on, I'm trying to
what's
find
happened.
something.
I've been watching this for 3 years. It's a war that would have never happened if I was president, and I've been watching these people being killed at levels that you've rarely seen, not even close, since the Second World War. And I'm very disappointed. I hear that, they're upset about not having a seat. Well, they've had a seat for 3 years and a long time before that. This could have been settled very easily. Just a half-baked negotiator could have settled this years ago without the loss of much land, very little land, without the loss of any lives, and without the loss of cities that are just laying on their sides. You have those magnificent golden domes that are shattered, will never be replaced. You can't replace them. 1,000-year-old domes that are so beautiful, you can't replace that. The whole civilization has changed because of what. So when they're worried about not being seated, you mean somebody that should have gone in and made a deal a long time ago. You could have made a deal. This is one that could have made a deal. There was no talk of this during the Trump administration. Putin would have never, ever done it.
God, this
and
is
by
so
the way,
boring.
we wouldn't have had October 7th. You know that? We wouldn't have had October 7th either in Israel. And we wouldn't have had that mess that's going on over there. It's like we have great fire people here. We're putting out fires all over the world.
Okay. I don't know. It's supposed to be a big update, but I only got like 3 hours, so I wanted to check something else here. Oh shit, this has been playing in the background. Whoopsies. Alright, I seen this the other day. This was a funny one. Some people may not like it, but, well, people don't like a lot of things nowadays. So Trump's press secretary shuts down LGBT activists with brutal speech. Oh, this should be interesting.
I wrap up because I do want to get to these meetings, and I will see you all at the EO signing later this afternoon. I would just say that you brought to mind California and North Carolina, who continue to be on our hearts, and the president and this administration are committed to ensuring that these individuals get the funding that they need. And I would just say a strong message to Democrats who are out there pretending to be outraged about the long list of crap that this administration is cutting, federal waste and funding, like $2 million for sex changes in Guatemala, $2
million for sex changes in Guatemala. What? You think Guatemala gives two flying shits about American identity politics? Why would you send money over there for that? They're not going to use it for that.
$6 million to fund tourism in Egypt, $20 million on a new Sesame Street show in Iraq.
$20 million for Sesame Street in Iraq. You really think Iraq wants Big Bird? I don't think they give a fuck. Why is $20 million going to something so ridiculously stupid? Isn't there something else $20 million could go to other than Sesame Street in Iraq? What the fuck are we doing?
$4.5 million to combat disinformation in Kazakhstan. I could go on and on, and I'm happy to provide this list to every single one of you. Democrats are outraged that the American people want to be, they want their taxpayers going to good uses, not stuff like this. But
yes, virtue signaling, privileged retards don't want your taxpayer money to go to improving the living situation in their own society because they already live in a good situation and these problems don't affect them. So instead, they sit in their porcelain towers and they virtue signal on everybody else and tell you that you should not be outraged that $20 million is going to producing Sesame Street in Iraq. And you thinking that money should go to producing or increasing the quality of life in the country that you are working and paying taxes in somehow makes you a bad person. This is the insane rhetoric of a bunch of middle-aged, middle-class white people who want to virtue signal on everybody else because they think that they have some sort of moral grandstanding high ground, and because they live in a privileged situation, they think it's okay that your tax money goes to the rest of the world, and instead of, I don't know, fixing roads and solving homelessness and taking care of your war vets or just in general increasing the quality of life for you and your community. No, we gotta send $20 million for Sesame Street in Iraq instead because we're such good, amazing people. That was hard to say with a straight face. Anyway.
But then they're very quiet about the fact that there are still North Carolinians and people in California who have lost everything, and in the last 4 years, this federal government did nothing to help them.
Well, of course, because no one gives a fuck about people in the country they're taking tax money from. Fuck them, we gotta go save Gaza. Or we need to push identity politics in countries of the world that don't give a flying fuck.
This president will continue to put Americans first, and I think the successes of this week so far speak to that, and it's only Wednesday. Garrett, great to see you here today.
Now, and I know people are going to twist my words and say that I think international aid's a bad thing. No. I just think that if you're going to try to help other people, you should fix your own goddamn situation first before trying to flex on the rest of the world, maybe we could fix our own problems first before we start solving other people's problems. Like, if you're, a good example would be, like, if you're giving advice to people to say not to drink, but you're a raging alcoholic, it just comes across as disingenuous. Like, you can't even fix your own life. Why the fuck are you telling me what to do? Shut the fuck up.
Thank you. On Gaza, the president has spent basically his entire public career criticizing foreign entanglements, nation building, sending American troops to fight abroad, particularly in the Middle East. This plan seems like it could ultimately involve all of those things. Can you...
Why does this guy look like such an egomaniac?
Can you explain this reversal and how building and owning Gaza squares with America First foreign policy?
I mean, I do agree with this question. It's kind of weird to be investing money into owning Gaza when you're trying to solve your own country's problems. It's just like, is there oil there? Is that what we're doing here, guys? Are we all trying to just pretend that we want to save Gaza in order to take whatever resources are there? I don't know. It just seems like a weird move.
Reject the premise of your question that this forces the United States to be entangled in conflicts abroad. The president has not committed to putting boots on the ground in Gaza. He has also said that the United States is not going to pay for the rebuilding of Gaza. His administration is going to work with...
Well, no, because he was too busy using taxpayer money to fly in a private jet over top of the Gulf of Mexico while he signed an executive order also using taxpayer money to change the name of it to the Gulf of America after grandstanding and saying that he was going to stop using taxpayer money for useless, mundane bullshit. Anyway.
Our partners in the region to reconstruct this region. And let me just take a step back here, because this is an out-of-the-box idea. That's who President Trump is. That's why the American people elected him. And his goal is lasting peace in the Middle East for all people in the region.
No, and I think I do agree with some of what you're saying, but I think the reason that Trump got reelected is because you have a lot of just intentionally dishonest, insane personally attack people that are constantly telling everybody else what to do, and they just didn't want to vote for that side, and they wanted people that want to censor everybody who disagrees with them while they simultaneously send death threats to their family to have some accountability. The Democrats essentially pushed the entire country to vote against them by being arrogant, obnoxious lunatics, essentially. That's why Trump got reelected for the most part. You did it to yourselves.
And as I said in my opening remarks, we've had the same people pushing the same solutions to this problem for decades. And it's been made very clear to the president that the United States needs to be involved in this rebuilding effort to ensure stability in the region for all people.
Why? Why is it our problem? I don't live in Gaza. Do you live in Gaza? Did I cause Gaza to be turned into a war zone? Why the fuck should I care? Meanwhile, over here, our economy is crashing around us. Donald Trump is putting tariffs on us. Why the fuck do I care about what's going on in Gaza? Yeah, it sucks that they're in that situation, but again, it's not my problem. That's somewhere else. That's on the other side of the fucking world.
That does not mean boots on the ground in Gaza. It does not mean American taxpayers will be funding this effort. It means Donald Trump, who is the best deal maker on the planet, is going to strike a deal with our partners in the region.
He did not rule out American troops in Gaza last night. Are you doing that now?
I am saying that the president has not committed to that just yet. He has not made that commitment, and you know that.
Yeah, so more intentional dishonesty. We didn't say, but we didn't say we weren't. Mm-hmm. Right.
And on the foreign partners, the Jordanians, the Egyptians, the Saudis have already panned this plan. What foreign partners, if any, have expressed any interest in being part of it?
Well, the president has said he's been socialing this idea for quite some time. He's been thinking about this. He said in his remarks last night this was not a decision or an announcement that he takes lightly. And the president has already spoken to the President al-Sisi. In fact, that was his first foreign leader call. He's meeting with the King of Jordan, King Abdullah, next week. He spoke with the King of Bahrain. He spoke with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. And he has made it very clear, he's been very vocal, that he expects our partners in the region, particularly Egypt and Jordan, to accept Palestinian refugees temporarily so that we can rebuild their home. I'd like to show you some images of Gaza that were taken. Fox News aired.
Okay, so we're getting rid of the old refugees and we're just bringing in new ones. Is that what am I hearing that correctly? I thought the whole thing was to get rid of illegal immigrants, not just bring in a new supply of them. Yes, I understand that if you're going to go through with something like this, you're going to have to relocate people. But again, I just don't see why it's America or Canada's problem to do this. Like, we need to stop taking on more than we can handle because we're essentially crumbling underneath our own egos, trying to save the world because for some reason we've all convinced ourselves that we're bad people for what our ancestors did, and now we're trying to fix it by essentially self-destructing.
This, I mean, that is, as they put it, in an apocalyptic scene in Gaza. This is an uninhabitable place for human beings. Do you really think that families can live their dream in a region that looks like this, with no running water, no electricity? And the special envoy to the president, Steve Witkoff, recently traveled to Gaza, as you all know. And he came back with images that he showed the president of the dire situation.
So are we just going to jump in and give aid to every country that has a fallout with another country? If we keep doing that, we're gonna crumble ourselves. And then guess what? No one's gonna come to our aid because a lot of these countries do not respect us and are more than happy to take our money, and then eventually they'll just turn it around on us. We need to stop helping people that don't respect us. We need to help ourselves first, and then we can help these countries, because if we're not in a situation to protect ourselves from the people that we're helping, well, you know, this might be a very cynical way of seeing things, but I guarantee you, because I understand human behavior, they're just going to come and take it back from us. These are the type of people that will take our money and harm us later. It's been that, like, look, at any point in history, you see the second a country shows weakness, other countries move in. We need to get out of this motherfucking hamster wheel behavior where we just keep circling the fucking drain and doing stupid shit.
Situation here. And the president made this decision with a humanitarian heart for all people in the region. Peter.
Thank you, Caroline. Are any officials here preparing to fight Democratic lawmakers in the streets?
Absolutely not.
So,
what a stupid fucking question. Who the fuck asked that? Oh man, see, this is the mind of these people. It's always straight to violence with these people. It's because their head's just for decoration, and as soon as something is said that's too complicated for their small brains to understand, they go into caveman mode and start talking about violence.
And thanks for the question.
Some elected Democrats are so steamed about Doge. Congresswoman LaMonica McIver says, "We are at war." Ilhan Omar says, "We might actually see somebody get killed."
Who are we at war with exactly? I don't know about you, but it's been pretty damn peaceful. That's why we're taking in refugees, is because we're not at war. Alright.
And Chris Van Hollen says, "We have to fight this in the Congress. We have to fight this in the streets." So, what now?
And may I just point out, if you heard that type of violent, enticing rhetoric from our side of the aisle, from Republican leaders on Capitol Hill, I think there would be a lot more outrage in this room today.
Yeah, obviously. And if you're, if your brain immediately goes to violent actions and inciting violence on people around you because of a political disagreement, I automatically assume that you're a lunatic, and I'll never take anything you say seriously, and I genuinely think that you should be institutionalized.
It's unacceptable, the comments that have been made by these Democrat leaders, and frankly,
like the Activision Blizzard employee who recently got fired, thank God for that, for posting something called Kill Your Local MAGA, essentially inciting actual terrorism and wanting the ethnic cleansing of millions of people who didn't agree with him politically. This shit needs to stop. People who say this stuff should be arrested and put in jail. This is hate crimes. And hate crimes, by the way, hate speech. Hate speech in Canada is a prosecutable thing. People have gone to jail, and I even have a whole video on it about people who post stuff like this who ended up getting arrested and put in jail. Because you cannot be posting stuff about getting millions of people murdered. Why is it okay to want to incite violence on every person who minorly inconveniences you? Just because someone doesn't agree with you on certain political things doesn't mean you have a right to murder them.
frankly, they don't even know what they're talking about. Because President Trump was elected with a mandate from the American people to make this.
And people like to sit here and say, oh, well, you know, they're dismantling democracy. Well, that's how he got made president, by people voting democratically. That's how democracy works. The people who vote more for the other person, that person gets to be in charge. It sounds to me like Democrats prefer authoritarian rule because they don't like it when other people vote more than they do, and they lose their fucking minds when people use their democratic rights to vote for a president that they want to be in power. This intentional dishonesty of blaming everybody else and, oh, we're dismantling democracy because more people voted for Trump than they did for Kamala Harris. Well, that's how a democracy works. You vote. I don't know if people seem to have forgotten how this works, but if you want to win next time, maybe don't demonize people in your country who you want to agree with your political beliefs, because that's a really good way to get people to tell you to go fuck yourself and then vote for the other party out of spite because they just don't like your fucking attitude. Remember when, what was it, when Kamala Harris did this whole campaign? What was it, like, Dudes for Harris or something? Yeah, White Dudes for Harris. Remember when this was, when it was a group of voters and they were trying to essentially this is not how you get people on your side. This is the dumbest, most antagonizing thing you could do, and that's why you had a bunch of white dudes vote against you. It's just because, like, what the fuck is this, man? You're gonna pretend like you give a shit about us just so you can get our votes, and then you'll just cast us aside? You think we're fucking stupid? Get out of here. What a dumbass thing to do. But, by the way, before White Dudes for Harris, it was all men are garbage, and men hate women, and men want to see, and it's just like, okay, so do you hate us or do you like us? Fucking pick one.
This government more efficient. He campaigned across this country with Elon Musk, vowing that Elon was going to head up the Department of Government.
Now, if Elon Musk wasn't in the picture, I would find the situation a lot less strange. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't really like Trump, but he does say some sensible things. Some. Credit where it's due. I try to be as unbiased as possible and think logically instead of emotionally. But having Elon Musk as your right-hand man just seems like a weird move. Elon Musk isn't always the most sane person, I guess, would be a nice way to say it. He kind of has that billionaire villain vibe going on, but anyway.
Efficiency, and the two of them, with a great team around them, were going to look at the receipts of this federal government and ensure it's accountable to American taxpayers. That's all that is happening here. And for Democrat officials to incite violence and encourage Americans to take...
Yeah, 100%. If you need to incite violence in order to get your point across, you're a fucking retard, and I don't... You shouldn't... No one's going to take you seriously. If you need to go caveman mode and bonk everybody on the head who you don't like, well, you're probably not very smart.
Take to the streets is incredibly...
Like, what is this, fucking Nazi Germany? And the people that are acting like Nazis are the ones calling people Nazis. You're the one that wants to put people... You're the people... My God, my brain is shutting down. You're the ones who want to incite violence and essentially ethnically cleanse people who voted for Trump, but simultaneously you're calling Trump voters Nazis. Do you not understand how that level of self-awareness comes across as ridiculous?
Alarming, and they should be held accountable for that rhetoric.
It sounds like something that they're...
100% agree. If you're going to incite violence, you should be held accountable for it. I will not stand for a society that the second things don't go your way, you throw a fucking temper tantrum and you want to start murdering people. Get out of here with that shit, man.
We're most concerned about is Doge engineers with access to Treasury systems. Can you clarify, do the Doge engineers have read-only access in these systems, so they are not allowed to write new code?
No.
They are not, okay.
No.
And then one more thing. NBC is reporting that some of the illegal immigrants that we've seen rounded up and arrested are not being deported. They're being released with ankle or wrist monitoring devices, or they have to check in on the phone. So is the administration arresting more people than you have room for?
I have seen the reports, and I'm glad you brought it up because we want to address it. There have been a total of 461 illegal aliens. This is of this morning when I got this information from DHS.
And sorry, from what I understand is they're also prioritizing like the biggest offenders first. You know, like the people that have 17 sexual assault charges, they're the first ones that are getting deported. Obviously. You're going to get rid of the rapists and murderers first, which, again, one of the things I agree on with Trump is getting illegal immigrants who are being protected under sanctuary laws who take advantage of it to do disgusting and disturbing things to citizens of the country. It just seems crazy to me that people defend pedophiles, rapists, and murderers. But anyway.
That have been released from custody of the more than 8,000 that have been arrested since President Trump was inaugurated. It's less than 6%, and there are reasons for their release. Some of the factors include a lack of significant likelihood of removal in the foreseeable future, lack of detention availability, which is something this president and this administration has been incredibly vocal about. We are doing everything we can to deport and detain illegal immigrants, but we need Congress's help to increase funding for Border Patrol and for ICE to increase detention capability in our facility.
And another thing that would probably help ICE out is if you stopped having a bunch of crazy, retarded people that keep getting in their way, coming around with their phones out, trying to record them while they're trying to do their job and get a bunch of rapists, murderers, and sex offenders off your streets. But because you seem to have this weird personal agenda and have proclaimed yourself a freedom fighter, you think you have a right to interfere with ICE operations. It would make life a lot easier for everybody if people like this were being held accountable as well. If you're going to interrupt police investigations, usually that gets you put in jail.
And then other serious medical conditions have also been the reasons for some of the release of these individuals.
And I know some people are going to call me a bootlicker for that, but at the same time, you know, if you apply a monocle of common sense, I could tear that argument apart and say that you're putting the officers at risk by being an extra distraction because they have no idea what you're going to do. They're already trying to arrest somebody that's capable of sexually assaulting a child, and now they got to worry about a bunch of people they have no idea what they're capable of. Bootlicker or not, you're being a nuisance and a problem.
But none of them have final deportation orders. Many of them are probably contesting their immigration status. I'd refer you to DHS for more details, but I did get that information because I knew it'd be a question, so thank you. Sure. Yes.
The president and you here again today have made clear, given the devastation, you think Palestinians have no choice but to leave Gaza and go elsewhere. But Palestinians say this is their home. They don't want to go. The president last night said he's willing to use the military if necessary. Is the U.S. prepared to remove Palestinians from Gaza by force?
Well, I mean, obviously people don't want to just pack up and leave their homes. Duh. Like, you live your whole life in your country. If someone came here and destroyed my country, I wouldn't want to just be moved somewhere else either. Like, fuck that. Obviously, the Palestinians don't want to be removed from their country and their home. Fucking duh. Like, you just gonna uproot a bunch of people and throw them in a foreign country and they're just supposed to redo their entire lives? Like, you realize you're asking a lot. Like, the people that want to stay in Palestine aren't like illegal immigrants. They want to be where they are.
Force.
The president is prepared to rebuild Gaza for Palestinians and all people in the region, peace-loving people who want real economic development and opportunity in the region. This is a region that has been controlled by Iranian-backed terrorists, Hamas, who have brutalized not just Israelis but Palestinians too. It is because of Hamas that you see those images on that screen, that Gaza has become a demolition site because Hamas launched that brutal attack on Israel on October the 7th. And so again, I would stress, President Trump wants to ensure that this can be a place.
What is it with the... Did she say September 11th? Is there... Hang on.
That has become a demolition site because Hamas launched that brutal attack on Israel on October the 7th. And so...
Okay, I was hearing things. Jesus Christ. I was like, is there some kind of like holy date with that? But never mind, October 7th. Okay. Sorry. I misheard.
Again, I would stress, President Trump wants to ensure that this can be a place where all people can live in peace. He is a peacemaker in chief. He made that very clear.
Well, I mean, I guess there's not really a lot of evidence to prove against that, but I don't know. I could be wrong about that.
In his first term. And as for how that will be accomplished, the president and his team are talking with our allies in the region to consider next steps.
But should the American people be prepared to see U.S. military on the ground fighting a ground war against Hamas?
Again, the president has not committed to U.S. troops in the region.
But it is an option.
I have said that the president has not committed to that yet.
I mean, I'll just say it's an option.
If I could just follow up on that, though, why not rule out the idea of committing U.S. troops? This has been a long-standing argument that the president has made really over the last decade or so, talking about endless wars and why not rule out?
Because I think the president is very good when he's making deals and negotiating not to rule out anything because he wants to preserve that leverage in negotiations. And so I think that's what he's doing here.
If I
Mary.
can follow up on that, though, he also said that everyone loves this plan. He said that in the Oval Office this morning. In fact, the Deputy Prime Minister of Jordan called it a declaration of war on the Arab people. So how does he square the fact that even some Republicans on the Hill are objecting to this or questioning this? How does he square the fact saying everyone loves this plan?
Well, King Abdullah of Jordan will be here next week, so
I mean, yeah, obviously, if you're gonna rebuild one side, the other side's gonna see that as a declaration of war. And then at the same time, we gotta ask ourselves, does Gaza even want your help? You know, not everybody wants America to come in and save them all the time. Sometimes they probably just want you to stay out of their business. I know I find it extremely obnoxious when people I don't want help from try to help me. Like, if I want help, I'll ask for it.
I can provide you more context on the conversations he will have directly with the President of the United States after that meeting. And I would just point out that there's been a lot of leaders and officials all around the world who have doubted, I suppose, the deal-making ability of President Trump. You heard the Panama leader saying that he...
Oh yeah, and that's another thing. Like, I know it's always fun to rag on Trump, but you see, like I see this even the first week the man was in office, and people were like, "Oh, by the way, eggs haven't gone down in price yet." Like, this is some sort of fucking gotcha that, like, they thought he was just gonna come right in and immediately lower prices. Like, that's not how economics works. It's gonna take time for these things to take effect, and I find it extremely obnoxious and annoying when people try to take things out of context and spread misinformation because it supports their radicalism. It's like they couldn't even wait a month to start spreading this bullshit. It's like the first weekend they're already trying to play gotcha with... It's like, shut up. At least, if you're going to do this type of stuff, have some common decency for the rest of us and stop insulting our intelligence by immediately finding straw man arguments and have some actual evidence. Like the other day, the guy who made that whole video about the unfortunate person that got tortured by, or that trans person that got tortured and murdered, and then we find out at the end of the video that it wasn't actually a hate crime and it was another trans person that they knew and lived with that actually committed the crime, but they were trying to use it as a gotcha to say that the person that I was talking about was inciting violence on trans people by simply disagreeing with radical, insane behaviors, and like didn't even wait for the actual evidence to come out to try to use it as a, oh, well, here's the proof that you're a piece of shit. And it's just like, you make yourself out to look like an absolute asshole when you do stuff like that.
He would not agree to some of the concessions that he has now made because of Secretary Rubio's visit. You had the Colombian president saying he wouldn't accept flights of Colombian illegal nationals who have entered into our country illegally, and those flights are underway. So actions speak louder than words. Dasha.
Caroline, you said the president has been working on this idea for a while behind the scenes now. Is there a written plan based on the president's proposal for Gaza? And if so, when was it drafted and who had a hand in that?
The plan was written in the president's remarks last night as he revealed it to the world and to the American people, and his team are continuing to be engaged on this effort. I saw the National Security Advisor this morning. He has a very busy day of calls, and they will, again, continue to engage with our partners. That includes Steve Witkoff as well. Mary.
Two questions for you on the news of the day. So, how is today's executive order going to impact the 2028 Summer Olympics in Los Angeles? For example, would a man who thinks that he's a transgender woman be allowed to compete as a female on U.S. soil?
It's a very good question, and the president has actually mentioned this, that he does expect the Olympic Committee and the NCAA to no longer allow men to compete in women's sports. And I think the president...
Fucking thank you. This has been something that I have found very confusing for a while. That why would you have a bunch of men pretending to be women in order to take advantage of them in sports and call this inclusivity? Meanwhile, you've got multiple cases of women getting battered and sexually assaulted in changing rooms and showers because some egotistical maniacs want to use this as a way to virtue signal and tell everybody they're a bad person for disagreeing with it.
President, with the signing of his pen, starts a very public pressure campaign on these organizations to do the right thing.
I mean, it just makes sense. Why would you allow men in women's change rooms? I don't give a fuck if they think they're women. It's disgusting.
For women and for girls across the country. Again, this is an...
And in some cases, you are having adult men in the same change rooms of underage women. or girls, sorry, doing this same behavior, and you're gonna look me in the eyes and tell me that this is normal, okay behavior? Yeah, no. You can virtue signal all you want, call me a bigot, I don't give a flying fuck. This is not normal, this is not gonna be something that's gonna be normalized. Men and women's change rooms are not going to be things that people stand for because that's fucking disgusting. We've known this for hundreds of years.
An incredibly popular position. There have been many notable female athletes who have had the courage to speak out against some very powerful institutions in this country. They deserve to have a voice and a say. The president is bringing their voice to the high.
Yeah, and I remember a lot of the gotchas people would be used as like, the women love it too. No, they don't. You just don't want to listen because it doesn't inflate your ego.
Level at the White House this afternoon, and he expects these organizations to comply with this federal executive order that he'll be signing today.
Thank you. And one more on media coverage of this executive order and the topic in general. What's the White House's view of framing that calls men transgender females or similar rhetoric coming from organizations like the ACLU and GLAAD?
Well, it's been very clear. The policy of this administration is that there are only two sexes, male and female. Pretty simple. Brian Glenn.
Yes. USAID has gotten a lot of attention in the last couple of days with some of these bizarre things that we've been, taxpayers have been funding. Mm-hmm. Now it looks like there are
bizarre things that taxpayers have been funding, like $20 million for Sesame Street in Iraq. I'll never get over that. That's the dumbest, most hilarious thing I've ever heard. And people should be much more outraged by that. That's a lot of money for something that's essentially absolute lunacy.
Couple media outlets that have been dragged into this conversation as far as USAID funding as well. Does the president have any comment on that?
So upon coming out here to the briefing room, I was made aware of the funding from USAID to media outlets, including Politico, who I know has a seat in this room. And I can confirm that the more than $8 million taxpayer dollars that have gone to essentially subsidizing subscriptions to Politico on the American taxpayers' dime will no longer be happening. The Doge team is...
Thank fuck for that. Jesus Christ, $8 million for some stupid bullshit like that? Are you kidding me? What are we doing?
Working on canceling those payments now. Again, this is a whole of government effort to ensure that we are going line by line when it comes to the federal government's books. And this president and his team are making decisions across the board on, do these receipts serve the interests of the American people? Is this a good use of the American taxpayers' money? If it is not, that funding will no longer be sent abroad, and American taxpayers will see...
Fucking imagine using some common sense. Damn, crazy.
Significant savings because of that effort. Thank you. I'd like to give some love to the back row. I've heard that unfortunately they haven't been called on in years past. So Reagan, why don't you go ahead?
Thanks, Caroline. The WHC announced that comedian Amber Ruffin, who has called the president a toddler with his pants pulled down, will be the entertainment for this year's Correspondents'
Yeah, okay, it's a comedian. They made a joke. Get over it. What is this question? What are we doing?
dinner. Does the White House have a reaction to this choice, and will the president be attending the dinner this year?
It's certainly an interesting choice. I have the president's invitation on my desk. I have the invitation for myself on my desk as well. Haven't talked to the president about it. When he makes his decision, I will let you all know. But
I don't think the president's gonna give two shits about a joke a comedian made. It's... What a weird and useless question. What a waste of everybody's fucking time and intelligence.
Definitely an interesting choice of the comedian. I'll talk to the boss about it and see what we decide. Sure, go ahead. Yes, yes.
On the executive order set to be signed today, you said that this will be enforced. Can you spell out for schools and the public how exactly the administration plans to enforce this, even at the local level? And on top of that, there are human rights groups who say that this could expose kids to discrimination. What is your response to that?
I think kids have already been exposed to discrimination, especially young women and girls who have been forced to shower in locker rooms with biological men who have...
Fucking exactly. oh, we're worried about the biological men who are taking advantage of a movement in order to infiltrate women's bathrooms, and we're worried about them getting discriminated against. What about the girls that have to shower with a bunch of naked men? Yeah, like, what the fuck? Oh no. We gotta worry about the weirdos that wanna take... Alright.
Have been forced to compete on playing fields with biological men, which is incredibly unfair and unsafe, and again, an incredibly unpopular policy with the American people. As for the actions that this executive order takes, I already laid those out at
I think if you want to be a sexual deviant, you should be discriminated against.
the beginning of the briefing. I'm happy to give you a copy of this fact sheet so you can let your audiences across the country know.
What's your message to schools who don't comply with this?
They should, because it's going to be federal law in about an hour and a half. So your colleague to your right, to my
Thanks,
left.
Caroline.
Yes.
Taylor at Spectrum News. You talked a bit about Doge. Elon Musk is currently a, quote, special government employee who also owns companies that have billions of dollars in federal contracts. You said earlier this week that he has abided by all applicable federal laws, but what steps is the Trump administration taking to address that conflict of interest?
The president was already asked and answered this question this week, and he said if Elon Musk comes across a conflict of interest with the contracts and the funding that Doge is overseeing, then Elon will excuse himself from those contracts. And he has, again, abided by all applicable laws. In the back left, go ahead.
Trade advisor Peter Navarro, when asked about the external...
And I'd like to add a point to this. So the laws that she's talking about were actually a system created by Barack Obama. The Democrats completely didn't even notice an entire system created by a former president of their own of their own political party. And then Trump did his homework, or the administration did their homework, and they're actually using a democratically applied law, or a democratic law, in order to finesse them. It's kind of funny.
Internal Revenue Service today said, quote, we're going to collect a lot of tariff revenues and we're going to get tax cuts out of it. Is it the official position of the White House that tariffs will lower taxes for Americans?
The president has always been clear that he believes tariffs are a tax on foreign nations, and he's committed to cutting taxes for the American people here at home. He also believes tariffs are a great revenue raiser for this country, and that's exactly why he has committed to the creation of the External Revenue Service, which I think is a phenomenal idea. We'll just go down the whole row. Go ahead.
Tom Bateman with the BBC. Can you confirm that under the President's plans for Gaza, any and all Palestinians who want to stay in Gaza on their land will be allowed to do so?
I can confirm that the president is committed to rebuilding Gaza and to temporarily relocating those who are there, because as I've showed you repeatedly, it is a demolition site. There is no running water. There is no electricity. The president wants these individuals to...
Oh.
Thank you. Two questions. So we now know that the staffing was not normal at the air traffic tower, and so...
Trump's press secretary roasts woke reporter over DI policies. Oh boy. This one might actually get me in trouble.
With the government freezing the hiring of new federal workers and offering buyouts, are you not afraid that more incidents of different kind could happen with less staffing in different agencies?
Well, the president is intent on ensuring that we are increasing staffing at these agencies, and that's why he signed a very strong executive order on his second day in office, immediately terminating DEI hiring practices at the FAA. He also, following the tragic crash, as you all know, in the Oval Office yesterday, signed a memorandum directing an immediate assessment of the FAA to ensure the federal government is maintaining the highest personnel in...
Now this is a topic that a lot of people are divided on. Again, this is another thing people use the virtue signal. DEI initiatives, on paper, it sounds like a good thing, but in practice, it is used as a form of discrimination, and it gives advantages to people based off of immunitive characteristics such as race, skin color, sexuality, sexual orientation. It sounds basically like a rebrand of what our ancestors did to other groups of people. Essentially, they've taken what should have been a good idea, and they've weaponized it in a way to essentially give a different group of people a chance to whip another group of people. We can all know what I'm talking about here. It's essentially a bunch of people who want to... And people are going to call me out on this, I already know. But it's basically their turn with the whip on white people. That's what they've turned DI initiatives into. As a discriminatory tool against white people to get revenge for what our great-grandparents did to them. And if they could actually be honest about that, I would have a lot more respect for them. And I'd say, fine, fair enough, take your shot. But it's really obnoxious and annoying when people pretend a moral grandstand while everybody can see the writing on the wall for what it is. Anyway, this one.
Aviation safety standards. And I would also just say there's a cultural piece to this as well. If you are an...
And then all people are going to be like, oh, white guy, boo-hoo, he's crying about getting discriminated against. I mean, fair. You can make that comment. I really don't care. I'm not going to personally get emotionally blackmailed for what my ancestors did before I was even in my dad's ballsack yet. I'm not going to be guilty for spawning in here. So, there's that. So, but I'm also not going to just accept being discriminated against. Like, nobody should have to be discriminated against. That's my fucking point.
An American who has spent many years studying aviation, and you graduate from school and you're an air traffic controller based on skill and merit, and then you apply for a job and you're forced to fill out a biographical questionnaire asking you the color of your skin and asking you where you're from in details that aren't relevant at all to the job description. I think that deteriorates the morale of people in this industry. And if you talk to people in this industry, they'll tell you that.
And like I said before, again, like, companies have weaponized this instead of using it as the tool that it was designed to be. They've essentially turned it into a checklist in order to essentially flex on other companies to prove that, oh, hey, I have X amount of Y and Z and whatever, and then it just turns into a tool to discriminate against people that would be potentially proper for that position and that job. And instead of actually hiring people on merit, they've twisted it into a discrimination tool and are only going to hire people based off of what criteria they need to fill in for that check mark. And if you don't see that as problematic, then you might be a little bit consumed with your own ego.
In fact, many of them filed a lawsuit against the FAA a couple of years ago.
But I am very, very for not hiring people based off of their skin color. That's why DI was supposed to be an idea of being inclusive and hiring people based off merit, but as usual, people twist things and ruin good things that sounded good on paper, but once you put into practice and you give the power to people that are actually... they got a chip on their shoulder and a vendetta against society, they're going to use it and then essentially ruin another good initiative. Anyway.
Under Joe Biden's administration, because they were denied positions because of this DEI hiring practice that was putting identity politics over merit and skills. That's unacceptable. And I think just to put a fine point on this, because this is the third or fourth question
And I'll give a good example of how DEI should work. So, in the industry that I work in, or I'm trying to get into, I'm an apprentice in right now, they have extra benefits for women to get into the Boilermaker trade, because we understand that a lot of women have a bit more expenses, so they get a bit more money than men do. A lot of them have a kid to take care of or something, and it just makes it easier for them to get a position in a trade. And we need more people in trades, not just men. It seems a little bit unfair you know, most men don't have to take care of a kid. They might have child support and stuff, but you get my point. A lot more women are in a situation where they might need a little bit more money in order to get into the trades, and that's kind of where my brain went with DEI, where we give people kind of an even playing field here, right? Like, we just kind of even it out, where, you know, some people might have a bit more expensive than others, so then we compensate those extra expenses so that everybody kind of has an equal playing field here. Anyway.
Answered on this subject. When you are flying on an airplane with your loved ones, which every one of us in this room has, do you pray that your plane lands safely and gets you to your destination, or do you pray that the pilot has a certain skin color? I think we all know the answer to that question, and as President Trump said yesterday, it's common sense. Rob Crilly.
Yeah, I'd just like to follow up on that last question, actually. Has there been any sort of assurance from the FAA that they will immediately improve staffing levels, given the reports of not normal staffing levels on Wednesday?
Oh, absolutely. You had Secretary Duffy here yesterday at the White House at this podium saying that he is on it, and we can all trust that he definitely will be. John Decker.
Thanks a lot, Carol. You called on me, right?
Yes, I did.
Thank you very much.
As long as your name's still John Decker.
It is, absolutely. Thank you. The president's meeting today with the founder and CEO of NVIDIA. What is that meeting concerning, and who sought that meeting?
I don't have details on this. It's a private meeting. It will take place at 2:30 p.m. I'll try to get there in time, and I can let you know after. How's that?
On Guantanamo Bay, can you give more details about setting up that detention facility at Gitmo? How will that come about? What's the timing in terms of standing it up? And of course, this has happened before during the Clinton administration.
Yeah, that's right.
Detainees of Cuban and Haitian descent were both detained at Guantanamo. Are you looking at that model in setting up this detention facility?
Secretary Hegseth, I believe, was on television this morning answering this question, and he said that the Department of Defense is already on it. He has directed his agency to ensure that Gitmo is increasing their capacity for beds, and that's exactly what President Trump's executive order did. It directed Secretary Hegseth and also Secretary Noem to expand the Migrant Operations Center at the Naval Station to provide for this extra detention space. And as Secretary Hegseth confirmed this morning, that operation is underway. Sure.
Caroline, on the tariffs, can you clarify whether those will actually be going into effect tomorrow, or
Yes.
whether there might be some lead time?
Yes.
And are those, they will...
I should find the video that, I'll try to find the video on the conversation Trudeau and Trump had, because I'm very curious as to how that's going to affect us here in Canada.
be going into effect.
Correct.
And are those meant
I already know that the steel tariffs are already putting a lot of stress on the oil industry here.
to be in place long term, or is there a scenario in which Canada, Mexico, and China can offer concessions and then they would be removed?
At this point, the president has made it very clear those tariffs are going to be implemented and in effect. If the president at any time decides to roll back those tariffs, I'll leave it to him to make that decision. But starting tomorrow, those tariffs will be in place. Sure.
Thanks, Caroline.
Yes.
Can you confirm a report by our friends at the Daily Mail that the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer is going to be visiting the White House in February? And also, if I may, do you have any more details on Netanyahu's visit here next week?
Sure. I have not seen that report about the Prime Minister. I can go check back with our friends at the National Security Council and get back to you on that. I can confirm that Prime Minister Netanyahu will be here on Tuesday, February 4th, for a working meeting and visit with the President. And I'm sure you will all be here, very excited to cover that visit. Sure. Daniel.
Thank you, Caroline.
You're welcome.
So I wonder if that happened already or not.
Specifically, obviously, why does the president feel like that's the best location or a good location to make sure that Americans are safe from violent, illegal migrant crime?
Well, it's a really good question, and the memorandum that he signed, the order that he signed, builds on his previous executive.
So you mean the illegal immigrant crime that is protected under, what's the sanctuary laws?
executive actions, obviously, to secure our southern border and deport illegal criminals from the interior of our country. We know that we have an issue with detention space here in the interior, which is a big reason why Congress needs to pass this reconciliation package as quickly as possible to ensure that DHS and ICE have the funding they need to detain these individuals that the administration is very swiftly rounding up and deporting, arresting and deporting these illegal immigrant criminals. And so the president feels it's an appropriate place. Taxpayers are already funding it. The space is there. Why not use it? And the Secretary of Defense, as I said, is working on that as we speak. Sure. Yes.
Thank you so much for having me here and answering a question. So I want to talk more about the success that ICE is having finding these violent criminal aliens, some of them being sexual predators. But my friend Ben Bergquam reports that the Chicago mayor and the Illinois governor are preventing ICE agents from going into jails and prisons to enforce detainers against illegal aliens. In Maryland...
Oh yeah, no, there's a lot of people in the police force that are actively making it harder for ICE to do their job. It's really weird that people that are supposed to be keeping criminals off the street are intentionally keeping them on the street. I guess you have a bunch of moral grandstanding officers and people in legal power that still believe that, you know, people with 17 cases of sexual assault should be allowed to live in the country and roam the street.
The Attorney General has also put out a memo hindering local police cooperating.
And I think these people should be reprimanded and put in jail for essentially impeding a government investigation.
With ICE. Does the administration have any comment on leftist state and local officials defying ICE and Trump's deportation efforts?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting that Democrat officials in these cities who have been...
Sorry, I keep pausing. There's, I just wanted to bring this up. So I was asked, the other day, well, if someone were to deport your mom, wouldn't you be upset? Yes, 100% I would be. But mind you, me and my family, like, I wouldn't be dumb enough to take my mom to a country where she isn't supposed to be in the first place and put ourselves in a situation where I could be deported. Because if you apply any rational thought, you wouldn't put yourself or your mother in a situation where that could happen. It was like it was such a weird, out-of-pocket question that it was asked, and I was like, yes, I'd be upset if my mom got deported. But we're also not stupid enough to put ourselves in a situation where that could be possible. My family immigrated here through legal and proper channels, and are citizens of the country. We're not just going to move somewhere and essentially expect the country to keep us there. You know, if you think rationally and you don't put yourself in a situation, that situation's never going to happen. This whole theoretical of like, well, what if it happened to you? Well, I wouldn't be dumb enough to put myself or my mother in that type of situation to begin with. And if people stopped using their head as a decoration and applied any rational thought, they would stop coming up with these stupid what-if questions and could answer them themselves. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up.
Completely overrun and overwhelmed by illegal immigrant criminals would refuse support and help to cure this problem that has especially taken over their cities. I guess they don't want to admit they've been wrong with their sanctuary city policies. I'm not sure. You'll have to ask them about their intentions, but they would be very wise to comply with this administration, because this administration is hell-bent on enforcing our nation's immigration laws, and this administration will continue to arrest and detain and deport illegal migrant criminals. And what we won't do is defy our nation's immigration laws like the previous administration, who had these orders of removal on illegal immigrants across the country and were refusing to execute on them. We will continue to remove illegal criminals from our nation's interior.
Are they sanctuary city leaders? Are they violating the law?
I would certainly think so. I'd have to check back on which specific law they're violating.
What a dumb question. Of course they're violating the law. Where do they find these people, man? Why do you have people in these press conferences that ask stupid, dumbass questions that just waste everybody's time. Get the fuck out of here.
But certainly if they're not enforcing our nation's immigration law, sounds like they are breaking the law. And I would also add that their constituents don't approve of that. You've seen residents in Chicago show up at their city council meetings infuriated with their leadership in that city because they are working very hard to provide for their families. They want public safety and law and order, and their officials have abandoned those very basic American principles in these cities. And the American people want law and order. It's, again, an overwhelmingly popular policy to deport illegal criminals from our nation's interior, and this administration will continue to affect that goal. Sure.
A question on Colombia. We just interviewed Colombian President Gustavo Petro, and he insisted that he's not going to take any Colombian deportee from the U.S. if they arrive in South America handcuffed. How this administration responds to that?
When did the Colombian president make those remarks?
Today. For an interview with us at Univision.
Well, I will share those with the President of the United States, and I will get back to you on his response.
What happens if Nicolas Maduro? Caroline, there are more than 150,000 disabled Americans who are working today. The president talked a lot yesterday about hiring the best and the brightest to work in the federal government. Safety aside, does he believe that disabled people do have a place to work in the federal government? And does he also support...
Why do disabled people need to have high-end jobs? There's a reason why these jobs require people to be specialized at a certain skill. Like, we're not just going to start putting people with mental problems into important roles in society. You're disabled. Sorry, it sucks that you were born a certain way, but yeah, no, you're not going to run the country. And I don't understand why that's cruel to say. It's not. It's common sense. Like, we might as well just be putting monkeys into fucking high-paying roles at this point, then.
The current protections for disabled people working in the private sector as well.
The president has made it very clear that this is a common sense solution to solving some of the problems that we have seen at the Federal Aviation Administration, and also when it comes to many of the federal agencies across our government. People should not be hired based on their disabilities, based on their skin color, their gender, their race. None of that matters.
Yeah.
What matters to this president and this administration is how well you can do your job, and the American...
Like, would you feel comfortable having your military generals be consisted of disabled people? Like, come on, what are we doing here?
American people...
We're running these people are running a country here, not having a competition to see who gets the most participation awards. These are life and death situations.
People agree with that sentiment. So it's about competence, skill, and merit. And so the...
Fucking weird. We should be putting people into positions that are capable of doing those positions. Who would have fucking thought?
President is focused on ensuring that the most competent individuals, the best and the brightest in this country, are in positions in this federal government, especially when it comes to public safety. Can't overemphasize the importance of those jobs. Sure.
So just follow up on her question before. President Trump is holding China accountable on fentanyl by ramping up tariffs. So how is President Trump planning to hold China accountable on COVID origins?
I haven't spoken to the president about the COVID origins specifically in regards to any actions he may or may
So where's this epic dunk? I've been watching this for almost 10 minutes. Where is it?
not take when it comes to China. But as I have previewed quite a few times today, he will be implementing a 10% tariff on China tomorrow. Sure. Hi.
Has the president made up his mind about a timeline for tariffs on the EU?
No, he has not.
Will it be a one-size-fit-all, or will it be differentiated among governments?
I won't get ahead of the president on tariffs when it comes to the European Union. What I can tell you, again, is that the president will be implementing 25% on Canada, 25% on Mexico, 10% on China tomorrow for the reasons that I have repeatedly laid out in this briefing. Newsmax, go ahead. Yes.
Thank you so much.
No, the gentleman behind you.
James Rose.
Yes, James.
Damn, bro. Trump hates us more than China. That's pretty fucked up.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. Two quick questions on foreign policy, and then one very long and tedious and ponderous Rosen question thereafter. First, on Iran, we've heard very little about the president's forthcoming Iran policy besides his determination to prevent that nation from achieving a nuclear weapons capability. Is it the president's objective, short of the use of U.S. military force, to use the broad array of his powers to try to hasten the end of the Iranian regime?
I think the president has actually made his position on Iran very clear, and he made that clear when there were the negotiations about the ceasefire, which we know obviously is now in place, and the deadline on that ceasefire has continued. He said that Hamas and Iranian-backed terrorists would have hell to pay if that ceasefire didn't move forward, and then quickly thereafter it did. I also do have news on the hostage front, which I'm very surprised nobody asked about this because it is big news story, and the White House applauds.
Of course they didn't ask about it because it wasn't an opportunity for them to virtue signal. That's why.
The release of 8 additional hostages from Hamas captivity, thanks to the ceasefire deal secured by President Trump. 3 Israeli and 5 Thai nationals are being reunited with their families and their loved ones after being held in unspeakable conditions for over 15 months. And the president remains committed to the release of all remaining hostages, and they should have never been taken by the brutal terrorist group Hamas in the first place. And I think President Trump's working meeting with the Israeli Prime Minister next week emphasizes his continued support for Israel and ensuring that brutal terrorists in that region have hell to pay. Sure.
Can I just finish the other 2 questions?
Sure.
I know you want the long, ponderous Rosen. But first, on the Grinnell trip, as you know, under the previous administration, the U.S. recognized the opposition candidate in last year's elections, Edmundo Gonzalez, now exiled, as the legitimate president of Venezuela. Does the president's dispatching of Ambassador Grinnell to negotiate directly with President Maduro today mean that the U.S. now officially recognizes President Maduro as the legitimate president of Venezuela?
Absolutely not. As I made it very clear, former ambassador and now special envoy Rick Grinnell is going to Venezuela with 2 very clear directives. Make sure that Tren de Aragua members, of which there are 400 currently in custody, are repatriated back to Venezuela, and that all United States detainees return home. Thank you very much, guys.
Yes, I get rage baited. Fuck.
The president's use of language in this room yesterday.
Sure.
And without seeking to cast myself as some kind of moral exemplar because it's rather late in the day to try. Nonetheless, this was an event yesterday that began with a moment of silence for the victims of the air crash and the president's own invocation of, quote, a loving God. And then he uncorked that expletive to insult a former cabinet officer. It was the same expletive that I saw him use in the East Room in 2020 when he famously held up the Trump acquitted headline. My question is, if you could shed any light for us on how the president perceives his use of public profanity, which is a practice that certainly sets him apart from all of his predecessors. Does he regard it as an effective communications device, part of his appeal, or is it something that he lapses into inadvertently, perhaps in times of frustration and later regrets?
I think one of the things that the American people love most about this president is that he often says what they are thinking, but sometimes lack the courage to say themselves. And I think yesterday at this podium, you heard President Trump express great frustration, perhaps even anger, with the previous administration.
Yeah, well, a lot of times people do voice those opinions and then they get censored by the previous administration because they love doing that. You know, if your entire ideology can only live in a space where people are censored for disagreeing with you, your ideology is probably wrong. Anyway, that was, I didn't get to see the epic dunk that I was hoping for, but there is February 18th. When was that? More Fox News stuff. Damn, 5 million views. Fox News be farming YouTube. Trump and Elon Musk. This will be interesting. Oh boy. But yeah. We'll get into this in a second here. I am going to go get another cup of coffee really quick. Yeah. Or do I want to do... CBS host says Holocaust happened because of free speech. Censorship is fascism. Censorship is fascism, but free speech is also fascism. Yeah, these people can never stick to one train of thought. It's kind of funny. JD Vance, interesting. Okay. Oops, I didn't mean to go. Huh. Sorry, I'm just kind of looking at a few things here. Anyway, be right back. God, it's like staring at a... It looks like a supervillain movie. Okie dokie. Oh, fuck me. It's gonna be a long day today.
On hold. And
You sued Twitter a number of years ago. You just made him pay you $10 million?
That's right. That's right.
That's right.
Well, I sued from long before he had it.
Yeah.
And I mean, they really did a number on me, you know. And I sued, and they had to pay. They paid $10 million settlement.
You're okay with that?
I mean, I left it up to the lawyers and you know the team running Twitter. So I said, you guys do what you think is the right. It makes sense.
I think.
Okay. What are they going to talk about in this?
It's funny.
I think it's a very low. I was looking to get much more money than that.
So you gave him a discount in the lawsuit?
He got a he got a big discount. I don't think he even knows about it.
He's become one of your, if you read and believe the media, he's become one of your best friends. He's working for free for you.
Well, I love the president. I just want to be clear about that.
You don't care about that?
I know. I love the president.
You love the president?
I think President Trump is a good man, and he's, you know.
It's nice the way he said that, you know? There's something nice about it.
It really is. You know, because, I mean, the president's been so unfairly attacked in the media. It's really outrageous. And I've at this point spent a lot of time with the president, and not once have I seen him do something that was mean or cruel or wrong. Not once.
You know, I've known him for 30 years.
Bro's glazing him so hard.
I've never seen anybody take as much as he's taken.
Yeah.
And we've discussed this, and I'm like, how do you deal with it?
Did I have a choice?
Well, you would.
Well, I mean, if you're going to be the president of a country, you're going to have to be able to take criticism. I think that's kind of one of the first things they tell you when you get into politics is you can't handle criticism. That's probably not the place for you. It's kind of a hot kitchen to be in.
Say that to me. I'm like, what am I going to do? Worry about it? And, you know, and then culminating in 2 assassination attempts, which resulted in your endorsement.
Yeah, and 2 really bad assassination attempts, by the way, which I don't care what your political leaning, murdering another president is a crazy thing to do. Like, I don't think he's as bad as, I'm not going to finish that thought. But I don't think we've gotten to the point where assassinating. I'm just gonna skip past that part.
Well, I was going to do it anyway, but that was
it.
Precipitating event. Yeah.
That speeded it up a little bit.
Yeah.
The day of the assassination.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I sped it up, but I was going to do it anyway.
Mr. President, with your indulgence, I'm convinced that people only know a little bit about Elon. I don't think they know everything about Elon because as I studied and prepared for this interview, I learned a lot about you that I didn't know. I think people will think about Tesla. Democrats are demonizing you and trying to make the country hate you.
Well, let's be honest. Democrats demonize everybody who moderately disagrees with them.
I just want people to understand you a little bit better and the person that you've gotten to know and have now put a lot of trust in.
Yeah.
And, you know, just let's go over a little bit of your bio, starting with PayPal and how you became involved in Tesla and SpaceX and Neuralink and all these.
Take a while. I mean, you know, I think the way to think of me is like I'm a technologist, and I try to make technologies that improve the world and make life better.
Your shirt.
Yeah, and that's why I like my T-shirt says tech support because I'm here to provide the president with technology support. And now that may seem like.
I mean, that could potentially be a good thing. Trump doesn't seem like he's probably very tech savvy, but again, I still find it weird that it has to be Elon Musk, of all people. I understand why it's Elon Musk, I don't like it. I don't like him. I don't like the way he does things. Yes, he's a very successful man, but I find it weird that now he's getting into politics. Like, he was better when he was putting cars in the atmosphere and trying to go to Mars, not trying to run the country, essentially. But I guess we'll have to wait and see how that goes, I guess.
Well, is that a silly thing? But actually, it's a very important thing because the president will make these executive orders, which are very sensible and good for the country, but then they don't get implemented. You know, so if you take for example, all the funding for the migrant hotels, the president issued an executive order. Hey, we need to stop taking taxpayer money and paying for luxury hotels for illegal immigrants, which makes no sense. Like, so obviously people do not want their tax dollars going to fund high-end hotels for...
Well, it is intentionally dishonest to be giving all that money to people that aren't even supposed to be in the country to begin with. Meanwhile, you've got a massive homelessness problem from people that were probably citizens at one point. So yeah, I can see why people would find that to be problematic and annoying. It's like, why are we giving all of our taxpayer money? You told us that you couldn't solve homelessness, but you can put millions of refugees into luxury hotels. Okay, sure. Yeah, so you could have solved the problem the entire time, you just chose not to.
For illegals. And yet they were still doing that, even as late as last week. And so, we went in there and we're like, this is in violation of the presidential executive order. It needs to stop. So what we're doing here is one of the biggest functions of the DOGE team is just making sure that the presidential executive orders are actually carried out. And this is, I just want to point out, this is a very important thing because the president is the elected representative of the people. So he's representing the will of the people. And if the bureaucracy is fighting the will of the people and preventing the president from implementing what the people want, then what we live in is a bureaucracy and not a democracy.
No. You're both aware, you have to be keenly aware, that the media and the punditry class, not that, I think you've proven they have no power anymore because they threw everything they had at you and they didn't win. And that was, the New York Times, Washington Post, 3 networks, every late night comedy show, 2 cable channels. They just threw...
Yeah, they threw a lot of things, but no one's gonna take a bunch of people acting like toddlers showing a temper tantrum very seriously. That's another big part that played into the way the election went the way it did.
They threw everything, lawfare, weaponization.
Sure.
And now I see they want you two to start, they want a divorce. They want you two to start hating each other. And they try, President Elon Musk, for example. You do know that they're doing that to you.
Please, for the love of God, no. Isn't there, like, a system you have to go through in order to even run for presidency? Like, no, let's not think about Elon Musk as a president. Stick to going to Mars, please.
Oh, I see it all the time. They tried it, then they stopped. That wasn't. They have many different things of hatred. Actually, Elon called me. He said, they're trying to drive us apart. I said, absolutely. They said, we have breaking news. Donald Trump has ceded control of the presidency to Elon Musk. President Musk will be attending a cabinet meeting tonight at 8 o'clock. And I say, It's just so obvious. They're so bad at it. I used to think they were good at it. They're actually bad at it, because if they were good at it, I'd never be president. Because I think nobody...
I mean, I don't like it, but he does have a good point. A lot of these straw man arguments that people have been trying to use to essentially bash Donald Trump have been so bad that it's been easy to retract them. Like, if you apply any sense of logic to what a lot of shit-talking retards use as a straw man argument, it's pretty easy to break it down. There probably were, and probably still is, a lot better and more logical ways to have approached this, but unfortunately they didn't, and now here we are. So, if you're going to act emotionally charged all the time, you're probably not going to think very logically, and you're going to come up with bad arguments. And all you do is self-destruct your own points by doing that.
Nobody in history has ever gotten more bad publicity than me. I could do the greatest things. I get 98% bad publicity. I could do, outside of you and a few of your very good friends, it's like the craziest thing. But you know what I have learned, Elon? The people are smart. They get it.
Yeah, they do,
They
actually.
get it. They really see what's happening.
Yes.
And at the end of this interview, what I would like is I want people to know the relationship and know more about you. What is the relationship, Mr. President?
Well, I respect him. I've always respected him.
I'm sure it's probably financial and tech related. Let's be honest.
I never knew that he was right on certain things, and I'm usually...
Not to mention the fact that Elon Musk also owns one of the largest social media platforms on the planet, if not the largest social media on the planet. So, I mean, if I were in Trump's shoes, yeah, I guess keeping someone with Musk's reach close would be a smart business venture. Yeah, I could see it.
Pretty good at this stuff.
Not that I'm glazing him for it. All I'm doing is thinking rationally as to why he would employ someone like Elon Musk. Because once you understand things, then you can, you know, you can rationalize and strategize. Oh.
He did Starlink. He did things that were so advanced and nobody knew what the hell they were. I can tell you in North Carolina, they had no communication. They were wiped out. Those people were, you know, they had rivers in between. Land that never saw water, all of a sudden it was a river and a vicious, like rapids. People were dying all over. They had no communication. They said, do you know Elon Musk? They didn't really know I knew him. I said, yeah. He said, could you get Starlink? It's like the first time I ever heard of it. I said, what's Starlink? A communication system. That's unbelievable.
I have it.
Yeah, and he said, I called him and I said, listen, they really need it. And he got like thousands of units of this communication, and it saved a lot of lives. He got it immediately, and you can't get it. I mean, you have to wait a long time to get it. But he got it to him immediately, and I said, that's pretty amazing, and I didn't even know he had it. We watched the rocket ships, and we watched Tesla. I think, you know, something that had an effect on me was when I saw the rocket ship come back and get grabbed, like you grab a beautiful little baby. You grab your baby. It just
hug the rocket.
I've never seen
everyone. Everything needs a hug, including rockets.
No, but and he said, you know, you can't really have a rocket program if you're going to dump $1 billion into the ocean every time you fly. You have to save it. Right. And he saved it. First time that I've ever seen that done. Now nobody else can do it. If you look at the U.S., Russia, or China, they can't do it, and they won't be able to do it for a long time. He has the technology. So you learn. I wanted somebody really smart to work with me in terms of the country, a very important aspect. Because, I mean, he doesn't talk about it. He's actually a very good businessman. And when he talks about the executive orders, and this is probably true for all presidents, you write an executive order and you think it's done. You send it out. It doesn't get done. It doesn't get implemented. They don't implement it. Maybe they're from the last administration, and they are in some cases. You try and get them out as fast as you can. But I could, as soon as he said that, I said, you know, that's interesting. You write a beautiful executive, and you sign it, and you assume it's going to be done, but it's not. What he does is he takes it, and with his 100 geniuses, he's got some very brilliant young people working for him that dress much worse than him, actually.
Yeah,
they dress in just T-shirts. You wouldn't know
what's
that
wrong with
180
T-shirts?
hours.
Wait a minute. So he's your tech support.
No, he is.
I actually
but
literally
he's
am
much
tech
more
support.
than that.
I literally am tech support, though. But that's
He gets it done. He's a leader.
Yeah.
He really is. He gets it done. You get a lot of tech people, and you have people that are good with tech, but he gets it done. You know, I said in real estate, you had guys that would draw beautiful renderings of a building, and they'd draw the rendering. It would be great, and you say, great, when are you starting? But they were never able to get it built. They couldn't get the financing. They couldn't get the approvals. It would never get done. And then you have other guys that are able to get it done. You know, they could just get it done. I was in real estate. Same thing in this. He gets it done. So when he said that, he said, you know, when you sign these executive orders, a lot of them don't get done, and maybe the most important ones. And he would take that executive order that I'd sign, and he would have those people go to whatever agency it was. When are you doing it? Get it done, get it done. And some guy that maybe didn't want to do it, all of a sudden, he's signing. He just doesn't want to be bothered.
Do a lot of those executive orders have to be codified into law? Do you need the Republican Congress
and
to
they
follow
will be.
up?
A lot of them will be, yeah.
They will.
But look, in the meantime, we have 4 years. The beauty is we have 4 years. That's why I like doing it right at the beginning. Because an executive order is great. I mean, the one problem, it's both good and bad. Because when they did all these executive orders, I've canceled most of them. They were terrible. I mean, we're going to go radical left communist. Okay, it was crazy. Their executive orders were so bad. If they ever got them codified, you'd never be able to break them. So the damage that Biden has done to this country, and it's not even Biden, it's the people that circled him in the Oval Office, okay? But the damage they did to this country, in terms of, let's say, open borders, you know, there's so many things, but open borders, where millions of people poured into our country, and hundreds of thousands of those people are criminals. They're murderers, they're drug dealers, they're gang members, they're people from prisons from all over the world. And we have a great guy, Tom Homan, and he is doing so incredibly. You saw the numbers, they're now like 96%.
95%.
He is a phenomenal guy. And Kristi Noem is doing an unbelievable job. And he wanted her, he said, she's so tough. And I said, I don't think of her as that way. You know, she's very nice. He said, no, she's so tough. And she is. I see with the horses, she's riding the horse. Let's go. She's great. But the team we have is really unbelievable. But those executive orders, I sign them, and now they get passed on to him and his group and other people, and they're all getting done. We're getting them done.
Let me go back a little bit to your background, because it's beyond impressive. You were the chief engineer, for example. You were an early believer in Tesla. You became the CEO, and then the chief engineer, which was phenomenal. SpaceX, same thing, which is unbelievable. I mean, you were the first company, private company, to send astronauts successfully into space.
Fuck.
First private company to send astronauts into orbit.
Yeah.
That's pretty deep.
He's going to go into orbit soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, he's going to go to Mars. He's
Starlink.
At some point.
Huh?
Yeah.
Is it over?
But they always ask me, like, do you want to die on Mars? And I say, well, yes, but not on impact.
I mean, it'd be super cool if we went to Mars. Sorry, this is really boring. I've been trying to find something a little bit more, more exciting. God damn, bro. It's a slow week in the news world, apparently. Let's see if we can find something a little more interesting. Oh, we got a White House press secretary is live. Oh boy. You want to watch a live stream of a live stream? Fuck your pronouns. Ooh. 20 times comedian shut down. Alright, this looks interesting.
These are times when celebrities destroyed woke agendas on television.
Who you wound up supporting in the election, presidential election?
None of your business.
None of my business? None of your business.
In this video, you will see A-list celebrities destroy woke ideology, beginning with Samuel L. Jackson, who owned a woke reporter on the topic of usage of the N-word.
The usage of the N-word in this movie, and
no, nobody, none. The word would be.
Oh, I don't want to say it.
Why not?
I don't like to say it.
Have you ever said it?
No, sir.
Try it.
I don't like to say it.
Try it.
Really? Seriously?
We're not gonna have this conversation unless you say it. You want to move on to another question?
Flex,
okay.
But all right.
Awesome. I don't want to say.
Well, Samuel L. Jackson's just making this guy hella uncomfortable.
Oh, come on.
Will you say it? No.
That's not the same thing.
Why do you want me to say it?
They're gonna bleep it when you say it on your show. Say it.
I can't say it. If I say it, this question it won't make air.
Okay, forget it.
It's safe to say that this reporter had no clue what he was talking about and got absolutely destroyed. But it's not as bad as this next reporter who got shut down by Morgan Freeman.
Black History Month you find ridiculous. Why? You're going to relegate my history to a month? Oh, come on. What do you do with yours? Which month is White History Month? No, well, come on, tell me. Well, I'm Jewish. Okay, Which month is Jewish History Month?
There isn't one.
Oh, why not?
Yeah.
Do you want one?
No.
I don't either.
Refusing to acquiesce to his woke agenda, Freeman flipped the script and completely demolished his narrative.
I don't want a Black History Month. Black history is American history.
How are we going to get rid of racism?
Stop talking about it.
Well, here's a good way to get rid of racism. Have you tried not being racist? No, we haven't tried that yet? Well, shit, dude.
I'm going to stop calling you a white man.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you to stop calling me a black man.
But Freeman wasn't done embarrassing woke journalists. During an interview on CNN, he didn't hesitate to destroy Don Lemon.
Do you think that race plays a part in wealth distribution, or either a mindset that you can't
Today?
or cannot? Yeah.
No.
These people love to just keep bringing up stuff from the past. Like, people are just locked in the 1900s. It's almost like they need to victimize themselves. It's so obnoxious. You see people on social media all the time bringing up bullshit from like the 50s, and it's like, can we stop victimizing ourselves for a time that we never actually lived in, so society can just like move the fuck on already? Like, why do we gotta keep bringing up stuff from the past when we're trying to move into the future? You know, these activists claim they want to get rid of hatred and bigotry and racism. Meanwhile, that's all they ever talk about is bigotry, hatred, and racism from situations that aren't even current events. So...
You don't? No, I don't. You and I, we're proof. Why would race have anything to do with it?
Like, a lot of times, the most obvious solution is the most simple one. Oh, you want to stop racism? Well, just try not being racist.
Put your mind to what you want to do and go for that.
Denzel Washington took things to another level, abruptly shutting down a woke, agenda-driven question.
Have race relations improved under his leadership?
Race relationships have to do with race relationships. You're white or whatever you are, I'm black or whatever I am. We're standing here talking now. That's how we get things done. You can't legislate love. The President of the United States can't legislate us into liking each other. We have to step forward and ask questions about each other and engage. There's no law that says, oh, because I'm president, you all got to get along now. So it's up to us.
Mr. Washington, you're here in D.C. during an interesting time with the transition in the White House. Just wondering who you wound up supporting in the election and why.
It's none of your business.
Yeah, 100%. Like, what's that got to do with anything that you... Bro, where do these people come from with these, like, dumb, brain-dead-ass questions? You have nothing better to do?
None of my business?
None of your business.
In another interview, Denzel continues to dismantle the woke ideology.
And, incarceration rates in America has been a problem, especially as opposed to minorities. And Roman delves into the issues around the legal system. Do you think we've made any headway in the
I think it's more important to make headway in our own house. By the time the system comes into play, the damage is done. They're not locking up 7-year-olds.
Yeah.
That's a really good fucking point. What a very intelligent thing to say.
I was in Chicago a couple of 3-4 weeks ago, and we saw these little kids on bikes with masks on the side of their head, like 5 or 6 of them. And the driver said, yeah, they're little yummies. I said, who?
These men were a very different generation of Hollywood actors. The new ones coming out nowadays, oh boy. But that's a spiel for another day.
Said little yummies. Look up, Google Lil Yummy. Lil Yummy was an 11-year-old murderer.
Wow.
And you look at his picture, you'll see the headshot of him, and he's like this. And he got murdered at 11 by a 14-year-old.
Wow.
Who's doing life now, and a 16-year-old.
That makes no sense.
You blame the system? Where was his father? It starts in the house. It starts in the home. And
what most people do is they'll try to derail the conversation and blame something like music, movies, or video games instead of actually bringing up the real issue, which is clearly this person was mentally disturbed and that's why they murdered somebody. And yes, something should have been done in between the two situations there before this person murdered somebody. But, you know, most boomers and stuff will be like, oh, it's probably those dang video games, or I guess during that time it would have been that dang rap music. Like, it's just the intentional, intelligent dishonesty. We can never just come to a solution because people never want to address the real problem. People just want to glaze over it, find the easy way around it, and then give themselves a pat on the back saying, man, I'm a good person. Meanwhile, now you're going to have other 14-year-old and 11-year-olds killing each other because we never actually solved the issue. All you did was blame some sort of media that wasn't even at fault. But anyway.
Yeah, well, my father got locked up. Well, where was his father?
Yeah.
You know, like I did talk about my 3 closest friends, and they did, 15 to 25. One did 28, this and that. I was the only one of the 3 that had a father in my life, even though my parents were together. But I still had a father who was a gentle man.
While Denzel's response was calm, Lil Wayne took a more confrontational
approach. In the
approach.
United States of America, in race relations, and what you see from day to day in your life?
God knows I have been nothing but blessed. My whole path, these 33 years have been nothing but a blessing. I have never, never.
And I want people to notice something, and I say this a lot. It's always these middle-class, middle-aged white people with some extreme self-internal guilt that keep asking these obnoxious, annoying-ass questions. Like, are you trying to just make yourself feel better about yourself when you ask these questions? Like, holy fuck, bro. Get a life.
A strong word. Never dealt with racism, and I'm glad I didn't have to. I thought that was clearly a message that there was no such thing as racism. That's what I thought that was.
There was a lot of backlash from people about that. Would you change it, what you said, or
No,
you
not
still
at
feel the
all.
same way? What's your thought on Black Lives Matter?
What is it? What do you mean?
The idea was that there's this movement called Black Lives Matter, thinking that the rest of America didn't seem to understand that Black Lives Matter.
It just sounds weird. I didn't know that you put a name on. It's not a name. It's not whatever. It's somebody got shot by police and for up reason. I am a young, black, rich. If that don't let you know that America understands Black matter these days, I don't know what it is. Don't come at me with that dumb man. My life matters.
He ended our interview angrily.
Politician.
Lil Wayne is in the business of
Well, and I get his frustration too. Like, these obviously emotionally manipulative questions that they ask are just so annoying. And these reporters and stuff are clearly doing it to get a rise out of these people. And when they don't get the answer they want, then they just act like complete bitches. It's so annoying. Lil Wayne's fucking response here is 100% accurate. Like, I would 100% get up and leave if somebody asked me a fucking stupid, emotionally driven question like that. And then when I don't give them the answer they want, they get all upset and start being fucking snarky. Like, shut up, bitch. Fuck you.
making music, not apologies.
It's clear that Wayne was agitated with the question, but another rapper who was more pissed off with woke agenda was Kanye West.
Are you afraid of losing your audience? Yay.
I told you I'm only afraid of God. I'm only afraid of my daddy, God. I done been 15 years. I'm telling you, God is showing that you can have your own thoughts, bro. I've been canceled before there was cancel culture. Who told you that my career would be over? The same people that are telling you that you can't have a right to say who you will vote for might think they so woke, but they following the rules of what woke's supposed to be.
Another heavy hitter on this list is UFC champion Khabib, who was visibly confused with the question, how many genders are there?
We have a few hundred genders. How many genders do you guys have in Russia?
just very. I know you're a math guy, that's why I'm asking. I think maybe there's a.
Jesus Christ! Oh my God!
Like. Like I see only.
Again, like these manipulative questions and stuff. These guys don't want to answer this shit because they don't fucking care. Nobody cares.
Woman and man, there is no between.
Got it.
No between. Man, the kids.
You know,
this is like, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's like first time in my life. Couple weeks
this was
ago,
a month ago,
and I was in California. I was like on coffee shop. It's like, I really want to go bathroom. It's like, can I go bathroom? Okay, they told me code, and I'm coming. Like,
and I love the top comment here. Morgan Freeman is an exceedingly wise man. Yes, Morgan Freeman's a fucking goddamn genius. 100%. That man's brain is incredible. I wish more people were able to think on the same level as Morgan Freeman. We could have a much better fucking world. He doesn't tolerate this emotional blackmail and bullshit. Like, we got so many intentionally dishonest people nowadays. It's so fucking sad and pathetic. And it's getting annoying. And I think you're starting to see more of a rise of people who are calling this shit out because we're just getting sick and tired of it. It's just constant, over and over emotional manipulation and dumbass questions and what ifs, and it's just getting annoying. Like, any of these arguments a lot of these people use, if you apply any sense or rational thought to, their entire argument falls apart. And then what they'll do is they'll just continue to derail the argument by bringing up other random bullshit to keep you constantly on the defense. And it's like, fuck off. Get out of here. So obnoxious. Yeah, let's see what's going on at the White House here.
I encourage all of you in the media to actually talk to them, to hear their stories. And I would also just add one more thing. This is a wildly popular position with the American people. In fact, there was a new poll recently that showed the overwhelming majority of Democrats also support keeping biological men out of women's sports. And so I know the president is very...
I'm glad that they're still talking about this. Yes. Keep men out of women's change rooms. Fucking duh. Like, give me a goddamn break here, man. I am so sick and tired of virtue signaling idiots trying to rationalize a bunch of sexual deviants taking advantage of the LGBT movement in order to be in the same shower as a woman. Get the fuck out of here, man.
Very excited about the bill signing that will take place at 3 o'clock this afternoon. You will hear from him more on that later, and we look forward to seeing you there, Sage. So thank you very, very much. Garrett, great to see you here today.
Thank you. On Gaza, the president has spent basically his entire public career criticizing
back to Gaza
foreign entanglements,
Here we go.
nation building, sending American troops to fight abroad, particularly in the Middle East. This plan seems like it could ultimately involve all of those things. Can you explain this reversal and how building and owning Gaza squares with America First foreign policy?
I would reject the premise of your question that this forces the United States to be entangled in conflicts abroad. The president has not committed to putting boots on the ground in Gaza. He has also said that the United States is not going to pay for the rebuilding of Gaza. His administration is...
Oh, is this just a continuous feed from fucking February 6th? Oh, for fuck's sakes. I'm getting... yeah, I was like, this sounds exactly like something that I've already listened to.
Is going to work with our partners in the region to reconstruct this region. And let me just take a step back here, because this is an out-of-the-box idea. That's who President Trump is. That's why the American people elected him. And his goal is lasting peace in the Middle East for all people in the region. And as I said in my opening remarks, we've had the same people pushing the same solutions to this problem for decades. And it's been made very clear to the president that the United States needs to be involved in this rebuilding effort to ensure stability in the region for all people. But that does not mean boots on the ground in Gaza. It does not mean American taxpayers will be funding this effort. It means Donald Trump, who is the best deal maker on the planet, is going to strike a deal with our partners in the region.
He did not rule out American troops in Gaza last night. Are you doing that now?
I am saying that the president has not committed to that just yet. He has not made that commitment, and you know that.
And on the foreign partners, the Jordanians, the Egyptians, the Saudis.
Okay, this
Peter.
was a day ago. Okay, sorry. I'm trying to find stuff that's actually up to date here. Like the top comment. Notice how all of a sudden the press is aggressive with their questions. Not a freaking word 4 years ago. Yeah, no shit.
Very quickly, just following up on the question on immigration first. President Trump, during the course of the campaign in 2024, said the following about illegal immigration. He said, they're going back home where they belong, and we start with the criminals. There are many, many criminals. NBC News has learned that ICE arrested 1,179 undocumented immigrants on Sunday, but nearly half of them, 566 of the migrants, appear to have no prior criminal record besides entering the country illegally. Is the president still focused exclusively, which is a civil crime, it's not criminal.
It's a federal crime.
So I'm asking though, he said he was going to focus on those violent offenders first. So is violent offenders no longer?
Yes, this question's been asked before, and yes, we've also seen videos and evidence of them arresting the primary, most violent offenders. Who the fuck is this guy? Even this woman, everybody around him's just like, oh my god, bro, like, why are you here?
The predicate for these people to be deported.
The president has said countless times on the campaign trail, I've been with him at the rallies, I know.
Yes, your fucking stupid ass question has been answered so many times. Stop wasting everybody's time and IQ points by asking the same stupid hamster wheel ass questions. Jesus Christ, where do they find these guys?
I know you've been there covering them too, Peter, that he is focused on launching the largest mass deportation operation in American history of illegal criminals. And if you are an individual, a foreign...
Just because you keep asking the same question over and over again doesn't mean you're going to get a different fucking answer, okay? Like, bro, chill out.
National who illegally enters the United States of America, you are, by definition, a criminal. And so therefore, you are subject to deportation.
Yes, and if you do this in any other country in the world, you are also a criminal. You can't have people going into other people's countries and doing whatever the fuck they want. If I were to randomly move to Japan or Switzerland or something, they would have me arrested and deported immediately. Why is it so different? Why do we think that we're above how this works than any other place in the world? Are we just going to allow anybody that wants to come in and do whatever they want, kill our citizens, steal our money, rape our children? Like, this is normal to you?
I apologize for interrupting. So to be clear, it's not violent criminals do not receive precedence in terms of the deportations taking place.
The president has also said two things can be true at the same time. We want to deport illegal criminals, illegal immigrants from this country, but the president has said that, of course, the illegal criminal drug dealers, the rapists, the murderers, the individuals who have committed heinous acts on the interior of our country and who have terrorized law.
Those people who, by the way, still roam the streets because they're protected by sanctuary laws. Don't forget.
Abiding American citizens.
An enactment created by the Biden administration in order to protect pedophiles, rapists, and murderers.
Absolutely, those should be the priority of ICE, but that doesn't mean that the other illegal criminals who entered our nation's borders are off the table.
Understood. Then let me ask you a separate question about the confusion that still exists across the country right now as it relates to the freeze or the pause as it's described. President Trump, of course, ran one of the key policy items was that he was going to lower prices, lower the cost of everything from groceries, as he often said. But
I don't think there's much confusion here. Those types of things take time. You can't just go in and just dictate the prices. Like, bro, it's been a month. Chill the fuck out about the egg prices. It'll come.
In many of the cases, it would seem that some of these moves could raise prices for real Americans on everything from low-income heating, that program, child care programs. Will nothing that the president's doing here in terms of the freeze in these programs raise prices on ordinary Americans?
What particular actions are you referring to that
I'm
would...
referring to LHEAP right now. That's the low-income heating program.
Well, and like sending $20 million to Iraq for Sesame Street was helping. Who the fuck is this guy? He's an idiot.
Program, for example, we can talk about. There's no clarity, so I could refer to a lot of them. We don't know what they are specifically. Can you tell us that LHEAP,
There's no clarity because you don't want to listen.
that LHEAP is not one of those affected?
So you're asking a hypothetical based on programs that you can't even identify.
No, I just identified.
What I can't...
Yep. Here we go. We got what ifs and hypotheticals and just another shit-talking retard wasting everybody's goddamn time.
tell
Well,
you
just to be
is
clear,
that
since you guys haven't identified, let's do it together just for...
And he's interrupting her, too. Who is this obnoxious asshole? Get up the fuck out of here. What a fucking prick, bro. Just being an absolute shit.
Americans at home. Medicaid, is that affected?
I gave you a list of examples: Social Security, Medicare, welfare benefits, food stamps that will not be impacted by this federal pause. I can get you the full list after this briefing from the Office of Management and Budget. But I do want to address the cost cutting because that's certainly very important. And cutting the cost of living in this country. President Trump has taken historic action over the past week to do that. He actually signed a memorandum to deliver emergency price relief for American families, which took a number of actions. I can walk you through those. He also repealed many onerous Biden administration regulations. We know over the past 4 years, American households has been essentially taxed $55,000 in regulations from the previous administration. President Trump, with the swipe of his pen, rescinded those, which will ultimately put more money back in the pockets of the American people. So deregulation is a big deal. And then when it comes to energy, I mean, the president signed an executive order to declare a national energy emergency here at home, which is going to make America energy dominant. We know that energy is one of the #1 drivers of inflation. And so that's why the president wants to increase our energy supply to bring down costs for Americans. The Trump energy boom is incoming. And
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt her because she's killing it right now. We had, not this year, but the year before, we had a mass power outage in Edmonton here. Because there was an energy crisis here as well. Now we're paying out the ass for power. But what I found to be interesting is, meanwhile, you have entire neighborhoods of people in minus 40-degree weather without power or heat. But if you were to drive downtown, all the multi-billion-dollar office buildings with nobody in them are fully lit up. All the Christmas decorations are fucking lit up. Like, our priorities are clearly not where they're supposed to be. You would think the useless power stuff would have been shut down first instead of people's homes. But, you know, the office buildings with nobody in them apparently take priority while everybody else had to freeze for several days. Oh, but by the way, we all should have Teslas and drive energy-efficient vehicles when we can't even get our priorities right when it comes to when the weather goes below 40 degrees for a couple of days. Yeah, that sounds great.
And Americans can expect that.
Please turn that on. Thank you.
Well,
I'm sure that's going to turn out well for all of us.
Caroline, I think some of the confusion may be here with this pause on federal funding. You've made it clear you're not stopping funds that go directly to individuals, but there certainly are lots of organizations that receive funding and then may pass along a benefit. Meals on Wheels, for one. They provide meals for over 2.2 million seniors. What is the president's message to Americans out there, many of whom supported him and voted for him, who are concerned that this is going to impact them directly, even if, as you said, the funding isn't coming directly to their
I have now been asked and answered this question 4 times. To individuals at home who receive direct assistance from the federal...
Yes, it's so funny that these fucking journalists and whoever these people are in the audience keep asking the same stupid-ass questions, just more aggressive every time. Just wasting everybody's time. Come up with some better questions. Stop...
government. You will not be impacted by this federal freeze. In fact, OMB just sent out a memo to Capitol Hill with Q&A to clarify some of the questions and the answers that all of you are asking me right now. Again, direct assistance will not be impacted. I've been asked and answered about this OMB memo. There's many other topics of the day. Jackie
But
Heinrich.
indirect assistance, Caroline, if it's going to another organization and then trickling down.
Direct assistance that is in the hands of the American people will not be impacted. Again, as I said to Peter, we will continue to provide that list as it comes to fruition. But OMB right now is focused on analyzing the federal government's spending, which is exactly what the American people elected President Trump to do.
And one question on immigration, Caroline, on immigration. Of the 3,500 arrests ICE has made.
This woman needs to shut the fuck up. Seriously, who is this bitch? She's just asking the most annoying, obnoxious questions and interrupting everybody else who could potentially have a question that's not going to waste everybody's time. Oh my god, I hate people like this.
Made so far since President Trump came back into office. Can you just tell us the numbers? How many have a criminal record versus those who are just in the country illegally?
All of them, because they illegally broke our nation's laws and therefore they are criminals as far as this administration goes. I know the last administration didn't see it that way, so it's a big culture shift in our nation to view someone who breaks our immigration laws as a criminal, but that's exactly what they are.
You may have tried to point at the worst first. They all have a criminal record?
And welcome to the briefing
If they
room.
broke our nation's laws, yes, they are criminal. Yes.
Thank you. On stripping security details for figures like John Bolton.
Oh my god. Oh, yeah, now she's all cranky and on her phone. Oh my god.
Pompeo, Brian Hook. Senator Tom Cotton said that he's seen the intelligence.
Like I said, these absolute leeches just ask very emotional and emotionally blackmailing questions, and then when they don't get their way or the reaction that they're looking for, they just have a fucking temper tantrum and are like, fine, I don't care anymore. Get the fuck out of here.
And the threat from Iran is real for anyone who played a role in the Soleimani strike. He voiced concern it wouldn't just impact those individuals, but potentially their family, innocent bystanders, friends, anyone who's near them when they're out in public. Is the president open to reconsidering his decision?
The president was asked and answered this yesterday, and he was firm in his decision despite some of the comments that you had referenced. And he's made it very clear that he does not believe American taxpayers should fund security details for individuals who have served in the government for the rest of their lives. And there's nothing stopping these individuals that you mentioned from obtaining private security. That's where the president stands on it. I have no updates on that.
Is there any concern that this decision might jeopardize the administration's ability to hire the best advisors for these kinds of positions in the future?
No, in fact, I've talked to the Presidential Personnel Office, who has told me directly that there is such an influx of resumes for this administration that it's incredibly overwhelming. There is no lack of talent for the Trump administration. Reagan Reed.
Would he take any responsibility if anything happened to these people? Would he feel at all that his decision was a factor in that?
The president was asked and answered this yesterday. I'd defer you to his comments. Reagan, since you're in the back row, I hear you. The back row hasn't gotten much attention in the last 4 years, so I'm happy to answer your question.
I can project. Does the president intend to permanently cut off funding to NGOs that are bringing illegal foreign nationals to the country, such as Catholic Charities?
I am actually quite certain that the president signed an executive order that did just that, and I can point you to that.
One more, Caroline. President Trump issued an executive order on increased vetting for
Again, look at this. These two women that just kept asking the same questions that were already answered a couple days ago, just sitting there with a cranky look on their face because they didn't get the reaction they were hoping for. Like, your whole existence is just to waste everybody's time and bring the IQ of the room down to room temperature. Like, what a bunch of obnoxious, useless people.
refugees and visa applications.
Right.
Part of that order was considering an outright ban for countries that have deficient screening processes. Has the president considered yet which countries might fall into this category? Are countries like Afghanistan or Syria under consideration for a full ban?
Yeah, so the president signed an executive order to streamline the vetting for visa applicants and for illegal immigrants in this country who are coming, of course, from other nations. It also directed the Secretary of State to review the process and make sure that other countries or nation in the individuals that they are sending here. And so the Secretary of State has been directed to report back to the president. I haven't seen that report yet. We've only been here for a few days.
One, on the freeze in federal funding, who advised the president on the legality of telling government agencies that they don't have to spend money that was already appropriated by Congress?
Well, as the OMB memo states, this is certainly within the confines of the law. So White House...
So, did the most obnoxious and annoying people sit in the front row for a reason? Like...
Counsel's office believes that this is within the president's power to do it, and therefore he's doing it.
Okay, so they disagree with lawmakers who say that they don't have the power to freeze this funding.
Again, I would point you to the language in the memo that clearly states this is within the law.
Yeah, just because you say it's not the law when it is the law doesn't mean it's not the law. Holy fuck, man.
What happened on Friday night? The administration fired several inspectors general without giving Congress the 30-day legally required notification that they were being fired. I think only 2 were left at DHS and the DOJ. And then yesterday we saw several prosecutors, I believe 12, fired from the Justice Department who worked on the investigations into the president. As you know, they are career prosecutors, therefore they are afforded civil service protections. How is the administration deciding which laws to follow and which ones to ignore?
So it is the belief of this White House and the White House counsel's office that the president was within his executive authority to do that. He is the executive of the executive branch, and therefore he has the power to fire anyone within the executive branch that he wishes to. There's also a case that went before the Supreme Court in 2020, Scala Law LL.
We got a law expert, Karen, here. Always love them.
Versus the Customs, Bureau protection. I would advise you to look at that case, and that's the legality that this White House was resting on.
You're confident that if they bring lawsuits against you, the prosecutors who were fired, that they will succeed?
We will win in court,
and
yes.
Did he personally...
Yes, you're in your right to file a lawsuit. Now, can you shut your goddamn mouth and go figure that out so the rest of us can move on with this whole thing? You know, you can sit here and play which law is it, or we could actually have some real questions answered, which would be nice, because this entire video has basically just been a waste of everybody's fucking time.
direct this, given they worked on the classified documents investigation?
Just stop talking already, you obnoxious snake.
In the election interference investigation?
This was a memo that went out by the Presidential Personnel Office, and the president is the leader of this White House. So yes, yes,
Caroline.
Caroline.
Sure. Thank you.
Holy.
Congrats on your first day behind the podium.
Thank you.
President Trump ended funding.
Again, shut down, shut down, shut down. Mad, mad, mad. Yep, usually happens when you're a fucking idiot. Do all three of these ladies come from the same office? Because, man, those were some pretty bad questions. You know how people used to say there's no such thing as stupid questions? Exhibit A, everybody.
Funding for UNRWA, and also designated the Houthis a foreign terrorist organization.
That's right.
Both were decisions that the previous administration had reversed. So here's my question. Will there be an investigation into who gave the previous administration this terrible advice?
Well, that's a very good point. I haven't heard discussions about such an investigation, but it wouldn't be a bad idea considering that the
Finally, somebody with some sense and a good question. Thank you.
Houthis certainly are terrorists. They have launched attacks on U.S. naval ships across this world, and so I think it was a very wise move by this administration to redesignate them as a terrorist group, because they are, and I think it was a foolish decision by the previous administration to do so. As for an investigation, I'm not sure about that, but it's not a bad idea. Josh.
So it's not off the table. Oh, please do that. Please do that and live stream it so I can watch it.
Thank you for the question. I appreciate it. Can you give us an update on the president's plans for his tariff agenda? He spoke a lot about this yesterday, and there's a couple of dates coming up that he's spoken to. Number one, February 1st, he's alluded to both the potential for tariffs for Canada and Mexico, but also China to take effect on those days. What's he thinking about that?
Yeah.
Should those countries expect that?
Again, he was asked and answered this question this past weekend when he took a lot of questions from the press, and he said that the February 1st date for Canada and Mexico still holds.
What about the China 10% tariff that he also mused about last Tuesday going into effect on the same day?
Yeah, the president has said that he is very much still considering that for February 1st.
Separately, yesterday he talked also about sectoral tariffs on, for instance, pharmaceuticals as well as semiconductor computer chips. He talked about steel, aluminum, and copper. What's the timeline on those? Is that a similar sort of coming days thing?
Yeah, so
Actually, I'm very curious about that one myself because that directly affects me.
when the president talked about that in his speech yesterday, that actually wasn't a new announcement. That was within a presidential memorandum that he signed in one of the first days here in the White House on his America First trade agenda. So there's more details on those tariffs in there. As far as a date, I don't have a specific date to read out to you, but the president is committed to implementing tariffs effectively, just like he did in his first term.
Great. Well, it doesn't seem like the steel tariffs are off the table for Canada. Oh, great. Might have to save this one for later. Trump addresses FL Institute Summit. Yeah, I'm going to put this in my watch later because I believe I only have an hour left. This will be a good one to come back to after I finish work today. There was something else I wanted to watch. Where'd it go? 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 Oh, God. There was one about Canada. I wanted to try to find the, more stuff about Avowed. I don't have time to cover everything. There was one. Where'd it go? It was about Canada. Canada. Is it gone? Doge is moving too fast. Oh, hey, this was the lady that asked the really stupid questions. Okay. Alright. China's infiltrate. Where the fuck is the one about Canada? Was I dreaming? Okay, well, if I find it, I guess we'll do it later. Huh. Okay, well, no idea. I guess I imagined it. Okay. Never mind.
As President Donald Trump and Elon Musk continue to use Doge to dismantle
Doge. This one had the crazy lady that was just asking the same question over and over again. And was the Karen law, or the law Karen. Pretty sure that was her anyway. She'll be in this video somewhere.
government overspending like USAID, the media goes into a frenzy, desperately trying to convince the public that frivolous spending was a good thing.
In Cambodia with a team that clears landmines and leftover explosives, but a freeze in U.S. foreign aid funding around the world could seriously upend progress.
Cambodia is one of the most heavily contaminated landscapes on the planet, littered with tons of bombs, bullets, and landmines. Left over from years of brutal civil strife, and a lot from
Yep.
U.S. bombing campaigns during the Vietnam War. The State Department has been a major backer of demining groups here.
With American aid drying up in places like Cambodia, projects everywhere will depend on other countries to fill that funding gap, including China.
Oh no! China might have to spend their money on humanitarian aid on the continent that they share. How dare we expect them to contribute? We better immediately resume sending billions of dollars to minesweeping and underwater basket weaving, just so the Chinese can continue focusing on bolstering their navy. It's almost like these newscasters don't even listen to themselves, or even proofread what they're writing.
Well, yeah, because most of these newscasters, they're not paid to think logically. They're paid to make themselves look good. So, it looks better when they're virtue signaling instead of actually talking rationally. Yeah, obviously we shouldn't be wasting all of our money and resources while other countries just do whatever they please. Obviously. It's ridiculous that we do this. It's just weakening us as a country.
Writing. As a caption over this clip is U.S. aid freeze.
Here's the issue, right? Is that in a lot of cases, like probably some of this is our fault for sure. But the issue is like kind of what I was saying just like actually a little bit ago, where like you can't expect a bunch of people to let me think of a way to say this. It's 100% our fault, right? Yeah, well, let's say it is. But like let's say you're 30, like you're 34, like I'm 34.
I mean, fair enough. Yes, it is probably the U.S.'s fault that it is the U.S.'s fault that stuff's all there. Why does Canada have to pitch in for this? Why is my taxpayer money going to a war that I wasn't even a part of?
Do I want to have the generational accountability for something that I wasn't even alive during that all my tax dollars have to go towards? Like, I'm sorry, but like, no, not really, right? And so 24, I said 34. And so exactly, right? And so like, I think that as people...
Yeah, like, why wasn't this an issue that was solved fucking 40 years ago? Or when was the Vietnam War? Like, was I alive during that? Sorry, I gotta look it up. It's been a while. Yep. 1975. I was still in my dad's balls back then. So 1955 to 1975. So 50 to 75 years ago. So why weren't these problems solved in the 80s and 90s? Why do we have to solve them now? Why is it that my taxpayer money has to go to something that I didn't vote for, I wasn't a part of, and now I have to clean up the mess that boomers should have fucking cleaned up? No.
As more people that are like, weren't alive for this, get into the voting force, they're not really going to want to be accountable for something that happened when they weren't even alive.
Exactly. It's insane to pin this on a generation that wasn't even part of it. You should have fucking cleaned up your mess before. Simple as that. I'm not gonna vote and pay for this. Fuck that. Hold the fucking boomers and the president at the time accountable for this. Not me.
Which is actually what they wanted you to think USAID.
It's kind of like what I was saying, the sins of our fathers. Yeah, exactly, right? And so I think that if you can't use that argument to a young person, I think to an older person, then maybe that could be effective. But I think especially to young audiences, it's just simply not anymore. It's not our sin. It's not our responsibility. Yeah, exactly.
Or aid to other countries, when it's really the United States Agency for International Development, meaning spreading liberal initiatives to third world countries that have zero of the...
Yeah, that's a big component of this. So a lot of this international aid is basically just a disguise for what Democrats were disguising it as a way to push the ideology to other countries and other places in the world that they feel needed to be pushed. And we all know exactly which ideology that is. And in most cases, those countries just don't really give a fuck because, well, let's be honest, most people don't give a fuck. And it's a waste of money, it's a waste of time, and it's just another way for annoying people to virtue signal and waste our money.
The cultural issues we have in America. But sure, help inject DEI programs into Burmese scholarships and LGBT initiatives in Cambodia.
One thing that I found very...
Or funding sex changes in Guatemala. Like, what the fuck are we doing here, guys? Come on.
Very telling about this USAID is that there were people from these countries that didn't even know that it was happening. And I feel like that was probably more telling than anything.
So most of these countries didn't even know that they were receiving foreign aid to begin with. Oh my god. Okay. Cool.
That if the entire intent of this is to create soft power in these countries, but the people that are in the countries don't even know that it's happening, what are the odds that this money just isn't really making itself... It's just really not making its way over to that group of people?
Well, and isn't this just rebranded colonialism? At the end of the day, it sounds a lot like colonialism. Rebranded as inclusivity. Like,
That's what I think is happening. Because, yeah, how is this? It's money grabbing. Yeah, what is this? This is very interesting.
Behind the guise of sweeping landmines on the side. As I do understand, landmines are terrifying. But it's not like once the local residents stop receiving checks from the American taxpayer, they'll just shrug their shoulders and say, I guess I'll just let my kids' limbs get destroyed. No, they'll find a way to take care of the issue, or better yet, their local government can use their resources to take care of their issues. And this...
Yes, countries have their own citizens that they can tax to improve the quality of life in those countries. Kind of like what we should be doing in our own. You know, like I said, this basically is just a way for America and other countries to push narratives and ideologies in other countries and basically just repackage colonialism in disguise of inclusivity and being good people.
This isn't me being callous to the fact that American tax dollars from half a century ago may have planted some of those...
Well, it's like, I mean, this guy's probably like somewhere around my age, right? I didn't do this. He didn't do this. We didn't do this. I don't want to pay for it. It's not our fault.
Yeah, exactly.
Straight up. Right? Like, that's what it is. Fuck that.
Munitions. This is me having absolutely zero faith.
Yeah, why is it my fucking problem to put out a fire that was made in the 1950s? Like, come on.
That if we continue to throw them billions of our dollars in an effort to eliminate their landmine issue, more than 99% of that cash is never actually going to go to protecting their people from landmines. As USAID is an aid, it's $29 million
to improve young Egyptian skills. What does that even mean? $3.3 million for LGBTI experience in the Caribbean. $4.5 million to fight Kazakhstan disinformation. $49 million to improve Zambia schools reading. Again, this all just sounds like either a way to push idealism on other countries or money laundering scams. Like, this is just insane bullshit. What the fuck is this garbage, man? You think these countries give two flying monkey shits about any of this crap? Fuck no.
Is going to improve young Egyptian skills. $30 million for the LGBTI experience in the Caribbean. $4 million to fight internet troll.
Bro, to fight. This is. There are. I bet there are people, you know, like that meme of like the really big fat guy with the water pipe, and then there's the little skinny guy trying to get like 1 or 2 drops. I think that the big fat guy is these different bureaucrats, and the skinny guy is the actual citizens. I bet probably like a very small fraction of this actually gets seen by the public and distributed in a way that's beneficial. I think that it's totally mismanaged, probably. We got to stop the spending. Yeah, exactly. And that's also like, you know, assuming that it's even a good idea in the first place.
Yeah,
Schools
no,
in
these aren't
Kazakhstan,
even good ideas.
and even when we spend here locally, there
money
was
laundering?
$59
Yeah, I
million
think it is.
for hotels in New York City.
Yeah, that was kind of my thought process too. This is just like random ass bullshit for Democrats and politicians to money launder and fill their pockets with taxpayer money. It's a lot easier to package it in a way that gets dumbasses to virtue signal and make it so that we're fighting amongst ourselves rather than pointing out the obvious bullshit that's happening in front of us. But anyway.
But for the migrants. And remember, we covered the crisis in NYC at length, then discovered that
Crazy.
we house migrants in the Roosevelt Hotel for millions, proposing
How
an
do you do
additional
that?
$220 million, all going to Pakistan.
Yeah, we're spending $50 million so that people that even shouldn't be in the country are living in luxury and eating lobster tail and crab legs. I wonder why people are getting upset. Weird.
As Pakistan's government owns the Roosevelt Hotel in America, who is now being handsomely compensated to assist in the destruction of New York City. But as long as we label all this as aid and life-saving, the news media can prance around in the public's face, trying to shame us into continuing this obvious scam. As a politician,
I think that's what happens primarily, is that people put an emotional slant on this, and then they try to use that in order to make people afraid to push back against it. And I think that if you actually look at the numbers and see how it actually fits together, it wouldn't make as much sense.
No, the second you apply any rational thought to any of this, it completely tears apart all of it. And as Asmund just said, yes, it's to keep people distracted and fighting each other. You think these governments and politicians and stuff don't have people teaching them how to take advantage of us? Look at any other point in history. They've done this shit over and over again. The same analogy I use all the time. We're just hamsters stuck in a wheel and everything always comes full circle. They've used the same tactics against us for hundreds and thousands of years.
You're the first one to say that you don't choose where you spawn since you're in the US. You are guilty by proxy. That's life. Okay, well, I'm going to choose to not be guilty. I've decided that I'm not guilty anymore.
Like, what a weird thing to say. Oh, well, you're guilty because you spawned here. Okay, well, I'm not going to feel guilty, so you can guilt trip me all you want. I'm just going to tell you where to go and how to get there.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm going to put that point in the garbage, and I'm going to do what's in my best interest.
Fucking duh.
So, yeah, no, I mean, I understand other people might think that, but that doesn't, yeah, that's it. And by the way, I think that that's the way a lot of people that are my age believe. How many of you guys around my age think the exact same thing? Like, I'm not going to try to hold, you know, like, and I feel like this is even true in a contemporary sense. Like, don't we all agree that it's outrageous and ridiculous to hold individual Chinese citizens accountable for what the CCP does? I think that's disgusting. And we saw that with COVID. The way that, you know, certain people that were Asian were treated during COVID was disgusting. And so even in cases where it's happening, you know, extemporaneously, it's still bad.
Well, people love the guilty by association thing, but yes, it takes a lot to get the government to do what we want most times because, again, they're really good at keeping us distracted and fighting amongst ourselves while they do all this shady shit in the background that make us all look bad.
politicians are now claiming eliminating fraud is unconstitutional.
You know, what is going on in this country.
Well, of course it is. You think the scammers want their money printer to turn off?
not only with education, but with other institutions, is the president is operating in a very authoritarian, illegal, and unconstitutional way.
Then other Democrat senators go on ABC to echo that same sentiment.
A constitutional crisis, grossly
Yeah, and then what they'll do is they'll use the media to emotionally blackmail average people into arguing amongst each other. Like, I had someone ask me, well, what if someone deported your mother? You'd be mad. And my response was, well, I wouldn't have put myself or my mother in a situation to be deported because I'm not irrational and I'm not going to move to a country that I'm not supposed to fucking be in. So your argument completely turns invalid because I'd never put myself or my mom in that situation to begin with because I'm not a fucking moron. Emotional blackmail doesn't work on rational thinking people.
unconstitutional. Pretty alarming language.
Yeah, listen, I think this is the most serious constitutional crisis the country has faced. Certainly since Watergate, the president is attempting to seize control of power and for corrupt purposes.
And now CNN parrots their talking points.
And tonight, there are warnings that the U.S. is dangerously close to...
This is, I think... wait, no.
Oh, here's that lady from the interview that was asking those really stupid-ass questions. I'm sure she'll have something very intelligent to say.
Maybe not.
Constitutional crisis.
Then NPR, The Intercept, Fox News...
What happens if Trump starts ignoring court rulings? Oh, right. She was the law Karen. I don't know what happens. You could try to sue and find out.
So Trump starts ignoring court rulings. We break it down. Constitutional crisis looms. Democrats continue to panic over a constitutional crisis caused by Doge. I think what's ended up happening is that this has been like another trained... I think the media has done a really great job at training people to not care about them. And I think a really good example of it is the Napoleon quote that Trump did yesterday. Is that, I mean, I'll be honest, as somebody, I've been very positive about Trump being president. I'd say about 90% of the things that he's done I've agreed with, maybe a bit less, maybe a bit more, depending. But I don't think that...
Which is understandable. I mean, he's doing things that would be in the best interests of American people in most cases. Now, as a Canadian, I'm like, what the fuck did we do to you, man? But whatever. Anyway, I like to think things as rationally as possible.
The idea, I don't think that the Napoleon tweet was a good tweet. I don't think it was a good thing to say. But the problem is that when you
I mean, I also can't be I can't just be mad at Trump either. Obviously, Trudeau's running our country into the ground too, and now we're just kind of getting a double-ended dildo in our fucking ass from both Trump and Trudeau at the same time, and it kind of fucking sucks. But anyway,
constantly have this highly elevated, super extreme language that's used all the time. When something problematic actually happens, people are going to be so desensitized to it that they're not even willing to listen. No. And I think that's what's that's what's happening. It's meant to be taken out of context. Well, all I'm saying is that's the way I think a lot of people see it, right? And the Valentine's Day tweet, well, I'm just saying in general.
Yeah, if you're constantly using words with powerful language over and over again out of context, like you call people bigots who aren't bigots, you call people Nazis who aren't actually Nazis, eventually you take the power away from the word, and then when you actually have someone who is legitimately a bigot or a Nazi, it's just not going to have the same effect anymore because you've essentially taken the power away from the word by constantly misusing it in order to essentially emotionally blackmail people into coming to agree with you. And the only way that your ideology or your opinions can operate is if you dehumanize people in order to treat them like shit so you can force them to come to your side of understanding.
The New York Times, Yahoo, MSNBC, AP, and basically everybody.
But unfortunately, most sane people can't be guilt-tripped into changing their worldviews. It's just, it doesn't work that way. Most grown-ass adults aren't going to let some weird shit-talking retard talk down to them, dehumanize them, and then change the way they think. No, you're going to get a big middle finger and then they're going to go vote for somebody like Donald Trump in order to get you to fuck off, basically.
Is echoing the so-called constitutional crisis we're currently facing.
Yeah.
And there's a reason this meme took...
And a good example of this is every time someone disagrees with your political views, they call it a culture war or something. No, it's not a culture war that someone doesn't agree with you on certain things. And because someone doesn't agree with you, it's not a civil war and all these insane words that these people like to use in order to justify whatever rhetoric that they're saying, and when they're inciting violence and stuff in order to make them look like some sort of fucking revolutionary or freedom fighter, when in reality someone just disagreed with them moderately on some political thing.
Took off, I think, in late 2020. First it was 15 days to slow the curve. Then it was lockdowns and masks.
Yep.
Then it was get this...
It's the bull you cried wolf. Yeah, and I think that it's happened in a lot of cases. And I feel like I think that it's just I don't know, I could come up with 10 different examples. I've talked about this a lot, so I don't want to kind of rehash it all the time. But I just think that it's such a big problem nowadays that you have such extreme emotionally driven rhetoric that ends up causing people to work against their best interest in the long run. COVID woke a lot of people up. It did. And COVID, what I think...
COVID was a good example of, if you don't go with the hive mind of information that you're being force-fed, that you will be censored and treated like an outcast. And it also, that was I think the awakening most people had when they realized that the government is full of a lot of incompetent, quote-unquote, experts, and they realized how quickly they can turn average people against each other by censoring people that disagree with the narrative that they're trying to push. And now people are sick and tired of being censored and having narratives pushed on them. And you're seeing legacy media and all this stuff start to panic because people are no longer as fucking stupid as they used to be. So now they're trying to use emotional blackmail in order to get power back that they have lost.
I think COVID primarily did is that it got a lot of people to distrust the government, and I think that it caused them and it damaged the trust that they had in the government in a way that is, I think, irreparable in the next 10 or 20 years. And the media.
Injection, then support this war in Eastern Europe, then vote Kamala to save democracy, and now Doge is a constitutional crisis. If suddenly and all at once, every single news outlet all says the same exact line in the same exact way, it almost seems like we have a Chinese-style state-sponsored media. As interesting...
I feel the same way about that, by the way. This is the same thing I said about games media on the smaller scale, is that everybody was talking about how it was bad that only one company owned all these other different media outlets. But if you could have... I couldn't have told you the difference... if I had read an article from any games publication, I could have assumed it was from any games publication. Because they basically all write the same, they sound the same, they have the same message, they even use the same terms like the return to form, etc. I think that it's insane.
Yeah, when everything is breaking news and some kind of crazy extreme story, then nothing is. If you blow everything out of proportion all the time, then people are going to just eventually get apathetic to what you're trying to say, and then when something real happens, no one's going to give a fuck.
Interestingly enough, we're finding a lot of news outlets receive money directly from the government. Then those same news outlets are telling us to stop looking into government spending. Seems suspicious, especially when they basically champion Biden for...
And it's funny that they're doing this. So one of the greatest evolutionary skills human beings developed in order to survive in the wilderness was pattern recognition. And people get very angry when you tell them that they're not seeing the writing that's obviously on the walls and the patterns that are happening right in front of them. It's a natural human instinct to be able to recognize the insane shit that's happening directly in front of them. Even monkeys know when they're being fucking scammed.
Notoriously not listening to the law.
Well, I think that it really, I mean, I feel like with the debate with Biden, I think that what that was really revealing for was the amount of complicit cover-up that a lot of media had done for Biden's cognitive decline. And I think that after it was made evident in the debate, it caused a lot of people to distrust the media because they could go back and look at all of the clips and all of the posts that had been made saying that, oh yeah, he's totally sharp and everything. And then you see this happen and him saying, you know, him like losing track of what he's saying and just like rambling off on bullshit. And to be fair, Trump does that too, but Biden does it a lot worse. And I think that what happened is that also damaged a lot of their credibility as well. And so now you have a population that is almost certain. And really, I mean, you can't blame people for thinking that the government is cooperating with the media and the media is operating as a fourth branch of government when it seems like they're covering up lies for the previous government. And it seemed like this was happening very regularly. It's obvious. Yeah, I think it's obvious to a lot of people. And people saw it's the emperor's clothes. It is. And I think the debate was the moment that people realized that. And when that was made clear, you saw everybody basically stop trusting the media. You don't get to eternally gaslight the citizen population? Yeah, exactly. It's already been proven? Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody can agree that being gaslit is extremely infuriating. And it's even more annoying when your government does it. Usually the people that gaslight you too are usually the wrong people that should be doing it.
Billions of people's debt was literally about to get canceled. But then some of my Republican friends and elected officials and special interests sued us. And the Supreme Court blocked us. But that didn't stop us.
Sounds like a very convenient excuse, but alright.
No, I mean it sincerely. We continue to find alternative paths to reduce student debt payments.
So it's almost like they're not worried about a constitutional crisis. They're just all looking for their new hot key phrase that fits on a bumper sticker. So
there's a lot of ways that and he's right about this, is that it's the same as like they cared about the judicial process and then Trump being tried and actually be held accountable as somebody who's important. And then Hunter Biden gets a 10-year pardon pass. I mean, I feel like it's very obvious that if this really was an issue that you had, you wouldn't have done that.
No.
It's just obviously bullshit, right?
It's one of those cases of do as I say, not as I do.
Can all reiterate the same line at the same time to make the normies think Elon uncovering government fraud is against your best interest, when in actuality, they only seem to be protecting themselves. As watch Fox News dunk on MSNBC for blatantly misinforming their viewers.
Elon Musk has apparently...
Every president pardons people. Well, it's a very different situation with, like, and I don't think that anybody... So, I don't think that a lot of people really... I think that many people in Biden's position...
I mean, I feel like it's a little bit different when your son goes on essentially a Grand Theft Auto in real life spree of crimes and then tries to hold everybody else accountable to their actions and then immediately pardons his son. It's just hypocritical. People don't like hypocritical, obviously.
Position would have done the exact same thing for their son.
But yeah, like Asmund said, obviously anybody else in the same situation would have done the same thing. Like, it's understandable to know why you did it. It's just obnoxious, annoying to have someone grandstand and be a hypocrite while doing it. You know, like if you're gonna do something like that, just do it with a smile on your face and say fuck it, like he's my fucking son. But don't for a second think you can sit there and grandstand towards me while you're doing it.
The only issue that I think people had with it was that it was hypocritical and it went against the messaging, and also he lied. I mean, he straight up lied about it. Like
that too, and then lying about it. Like, if you're gonna do some shit like that, just do it with a smile on your face and say, yeah, he's my fucking son. I would do the same thing in his shoes too. I would, my fucking son, man. Like, but I also wouldn't be sitting there telling other people they're pieces of shit while doing it. I'd be like, yeah, I'm a fucking asshole. I'm partying my son. People would have had a lot more respect if he had had the fucking balls to be truthful about it and not act like he's got some moral high ground when he did it.
Like if he had said that from the whole time, I don't know yet, I'm not sure yet, but he had been so outspoken about it and he had repeated it so many times that, yeah, I think people absolutely had every right to be mad about it, because it wasn't just the same as, like, you know, Trump pardoning rappers, which I'm not saying that's good either.
No.
But it's also that
it's fucking weird.
He didn't use that against his political opponent in the same way that it was used against Trump. So you don't like lying presidents? No. And so, but here's the difference, is that if you want to call Trump a liar, that's fair. But when Biden is also lying, then everybody's lying, and it's no longer a point of difference. Do you understand? So, like, you can't say that, oh, this person's lying, and now you're lying. Okay, well, now everybody's lying, so it doesn't matter.
He's an asshole. You're an asshole. Now we're all assholes. Pretty basically.
Everyone lies. They don't understand. Well, what I'm saying is lied about what though means no. I'm not going to get into. I'm not going to debate the person on the topic, because I think just the premise of the argument itself is bad, and I think that it's also about messaging, and also I know that there's a lot of people that criticize the way that I cover these different topics, but I also want to say that I've been right about every single thing. And every single outcome I've predicted accurately. So people might get mad about the way that I've said it. Yeah, I have been. And no, you have not? Okay. Name one. Name one time that I misjudged viewer sentiment or like people's sentiment.
We got we got one. I love these. This is one of my favorite things that Asma does.
I hope you're trolling. Me too.
It's always entertaining to me when people do this. Oh, well, you're full of shit, but can't give you a reason for it. It's like, okay, so you think I'm full of shit, but you can't tell me why I'm full of shit. So you're the one that's full of shit then.
Me too.
You're just unhappy about what I said. You don't have a point of reference as to why.
I'm not talking about sentiment. I'm saying you've been wrong about things before. Well, as being the most humble and the most modest streamer, I can agree with you that I have in fact been wrong about things in the past. That's true. It's accurate. That's a gotcha. Ban him. Yeah.
I love this new meme.
No,
that
I
he
have.
does.
And absolutely. But I think that in terms of like judging people's sentiment about things, I think that I'm pretty accurate. I do. And I would invite you, if you think that I'm not accurate, give me the cases that I'm not accurate in. And I actually want to see them. Because maybe if I see enough of them, then I can understand why I'm inaccurate. Do you understand what my point is? He's not gonna. No, you're not getting banned. You're gonna get timed out because we just want to move on. But sure, that's what I meant. No, it's okay. You're gonna get timed out just so we can move on. You're not getting banned. But yeah, it's not a big deal.
Put him in timeout.
I can explain why you're inaccurate for USAID. Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. I can. We can take one more commenter, and then we're gonna move on. Sure.
Uh-oh. 07, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Explain. Damn, bro. 991 messages in chat. That's crazy.
1 minute here? Okay, that's fine. We'll give it a second. But, yeah. Anyway, do you have another physician? Was the fraud related to paperwork that wasn't filed correctly? And Shirley has a good example. You were wrong about the loot boxes in Overwatch 2.
Fair point. Shit. In Asmon's defense, though, that was a pretty snake move by Blizzard. Like, even I didn't predict that one, and I've been pretty good at predicting what happens too. They were just like, well, game's dying, might as well pinch our customers for whatever money we can. Throw the loot boxes back in there, let's get them gambling again. So shameless.
No. I was right. Blizzard was wrong. Blizzard were the ones who went and they did they did that to make me look bad. I was right and Blizzard made me wrong with how fucking stupid they were and how greedy they are. I was betrayed. Yeah, I wasn't wrong, I was betrayed. That's a completely different situation, okay, guys?
My disappointment is immeasurable.
You're wrong about Bloodborne being remastered. Well,
I love how chat's trying their best to find any sliver of reference.
No, that's going to be in the next state of play. Yeah, that's going to be in the next one. So I thought it was this one. Yeah, it turns out it's going to be the next one. U.S. State executive programs, heavy audits, oversight, entire teams. What does that have to do with it? What was my... What was the... So let me ask you a question. Out of all of the instances of the different line items for USAID programs, do you think that every single one of those was in the best interest of the U.S.? Like the, weird plays, LGBT plays in other countries. Do you think that?
Yeah, like sex changes in Guatemala.
It's not fraud? Okay, so you're getting fixated on the word fraud. I'm not fixated on the word fraud. The word fraud doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is waste. And if it's being wasted, that's the problem.
Oh my god.
Like, whether they waste it on purpose or on accident doesn't really matter a whole lot to me. It's still getting deleted, and it's still a waste of everybody's money.
Yeah.
As our political position, some would say advancing soft power and Western values is advancing our interests. Yeah, that's fair. And if you think that, that's okay. But I don't think that. And I actually think that trying to push Western culture into other cultures in a way that's inorganic and basically done just by ramrodding it in with money, I actually think that that's going to alienate those cultures more, and it's going to make them more distrustful.
Yes, I 100% agree. You can't force culture to happen. Most times, if not all of the times, that ideologies or cultures have coexisted, it happened naturally, and it takes time for that to happen.
It's full of us. That's what I think is going to happen. I think it'll have a negative, after effect. And I think that this whole idea of soft power is... I think that somebody... I feel like somebody like Michael Jackson had a lot more soft power than USAID. And hopefully you can see kind of what I mean by that. Is that I think that distributing American culture across the world isn't something that you can legislate and force people into doing. I think it's...
No, because it's super obnoxious. Nobody wants to have culture and people's worldview shoved in their face. We've been saying this for fucking a decade. That's why...
Something that will happen naturally as America does things that are meaningful. Like the moon landing or something like that. I can see your point of view, but I mean, personally, I look at some of the examples that were used, and I don't think that they were a good use of our money. Now, if you want to look at...
No, and if anybody can prove me wrong on... What was it? $20 million for Sesame Street in Iraq? If there's one person on this planet that thinks that's a good idea, I would really love to hear how you came to think that Iraq wants Big Bird, or how $20 million is needed to fund Sesame Street in Iraq. Like, how is this a good idea? That's yeah, I feel like I'm getting fixated on it, but it's just so random. Like,
what do you call it? You literally said that Elon is finding fraud. The backpedaling you do is insane. So to me, this is what I think is actually happening. You want my honest opinion about it? I think that some of it is fraudulent in the way that it gets greenlit when it shouldn't have been greenlit because it wasn't beneficial. And I also think that there's probably fraud that's going on with money laundering as well. But it's very hard for me to say, like, where is the fraud occurring at? I'm not sure where it's occurring at, but when I hear citizens of the country that are receiving the aid that don't know that it's even happening, and I see people who work at these places whose net worth is going up by the millions, and then I also look at what these advances are and what these causes are.
yeah, find me documents of all the sex changes in Guatemala.
And I don't see any sort of like real benefit for the country. All three of these things come together and something doesn't seem right to me. And I can't see any answer to that isn't fraud. And I think at a certain point, a degree of mismanagement that's so extreme becomes effectively fraud. That's,
or at least gross negligence.
Basically it, right? It's kind of like the idea of malicious, like being malicious or being reckless. You know, there's definitely like a convergence there. That's how I'm seeing it. That's if you want my real opinion, that's what my real opinion is. In which these programs closed is not democratic, follow the actual process established in law. Well, that's totally fine, but I think that many things are downhill from democracy, right? So, like, if something is, like, and we don't live in a democracy, we live in a republic, but we do get to elect the people who represent us in that republic. And so electing people that represent us in that republic to make actions that do that, it's a second-order effect, but it's still something that we do have control over. And so, yeah, no, and hopefully you can see what my point of view is. I want to move on because, like, obviously it's like we want to watch the rest of the video. But, like, yeah, I can see what your point of view is. Hopefully you can see where I'm coming from, too.
Somehow convinced the United States government, specifically the United States Department of State, that the taxpayers of the United States of America should spend $400 million buying, quote, armored Tesla production units.
What?
Buying, quote, armored.
Yo, this has got to be money laundering. This has to be a money laundering scam. What? $400 million for armored Tesla units, production units. What, are we gonna start sending armored Teslas as weapons? What?
Armored Tesla production units. Isn't it great and definitely not at all illegal or profoundly corrupt? Definitely not ripping us all off to pay themselves, right?
Donald Trump didn't give that contract to Elon Musk. Joe Biden gave it to him.
I've said this several times on...
That was a real bad one. That was a crazy... That's one of the worst ones.
So Sleepy Joe wanted armored Tesla tanks? At least he's being energy efficient. We're gonna start energy efficient warfare with armored Teslas.
It doesn't get...
What is this?
Worse than that.
This channel, you'd probably be more informed if you didn't watch the mainstream media, as all they do is
it's the if you watch the news, you're misinformed. If you don't watch the news, you're uninformed.
Represent and twist the facts.
Yeah, and then we'll have the boomers inform us with misinformation.
Yeah.
To fit the narrative of what their corporate sponsors want you to think. And I used to say that in the context of them pushing certain agendas and ignoring certain facts, so you...
Maybe we should be spending $4.5 million to combat misinformation in here.
Take a certain medication. But now I honestly wonder if they're doing the same thing for fraud. But at least the more they struggle against Doge, the more they know they're on the right track. As look at Washington.
I just love the idea of Doge going in the history books. It's just so ridiculous.
DC, almost entirely liberal like the politicians that are freaking out. And exactly 1 week ago, Battle Beagle was wondering what Doge would do to DC real estate. But as
I saw one thing that was really interesting, and I'm sure there's no correlation at all with this, but let me see if I can find it. In Washington, D.C., a lot of Google searches have started to explode for criminal defense lawyer, RICO law, Swiss bank, offshore bank, wire money, IBAN, and statute of limitations. Very interesting that that happened. I mean, I like, we are in a world of coincidences here.
It's like a goddamn movie plot.
I don't know what to say. Let me see. Where is it? There it is. Yeah, can't that be botted? I'm sure it's all botted and it's all fake. Absolutely. Yeah, it's
yeah. Everything that we're talking about, everything that's happening, everything that's going on is just AI and it's all fake and everything's actually fine and there's no actual money laundering and Donald Trump's not the president and we're all going to wake up and it's going to be 2002 and life will be good again, right?
It's all of these. They're just all coincidences.
Today, it's exploding with new listings, mainly of $1 million to multi-million-dollar properties. How much bloat did Doge just expose? Because they've only started to freeze these government programs, and already all these allegedly rich people can't stay in their DC mansions anymore, which makes these political freakouts and marches in the streets make a whole lot more sense now.
So yeah, it's very suspicious when certain things start being uncovered and then you usually when you lift up a stone, all the cockroaches underneath scatter. So what's happening is Doge is probably uncovering things that are making these political people very uncomfortable and they're roaching out.
Yep. Where if you own a $3 million mansion, you should be making at least $2.3 million annually. Which brings me to the final...
That's not quite accurate. I think if you have a $3 million mansion, you got to afford a down payment of 20%. That's $600,000. Average person probably be able to... I'd say like $400,000 a year. $400,000 to $600,000 a year. Like average to own a $3 million mansion.
Well, I mean, if you're taking care of it yourself, I imagine the upkeep for something that massive would be pretty expensive too. But then again, I don't know. I don't own a house, so.
Most satisfying slides. As
he could live in a different place. Oh, here we go.
Trends across America for lawyer is pretty consistent throughout the year, but in DC only, it suddenly skyrocketed on nearly the exact date Donald Trump was inaugurated as president, and continues to climb. I know search terms
Now, I'm sorry.
I'm sure it's going to explain it in the video, but that's kind of weird. Why would that happen?
Sorry, but this does look like a roach out to me.
A massive roach out.
And maybe it's not. But man, it sure as fuck looks like it.
Don't definitively mean anything, but it seems awfully suspicious that this is exactly what Trump campaigned on. Having Elon Musk head the meme government agency in Doge to expose the corruption behind where our tax dollars are actually going. Then suddenly the ultra-left...
Bro, imagine living your entire life money laundering and screwing American taxpayers out of their money just a bit to get finessed by a bunch of Zoomers under the guise of Doge. You got doged.
DC freaks out, calls up their buddies in the media to call Elon every name in the book. Then they all possibly can't afford their $1 million mortgages anymore, and then they all have to look up their nearest lawyer. I don't know exactly what's happening, but I'm enjoying it every step of the way. So if you appreciate alliteration
It's
over my
fucking
concise,
funny.
lighthearted commentary on how
Yeah.
America's, and we can chat again soon.
It's just fucking hilarious, man. It really is. And yeah, I don't think that it's as much fraud as it is what do you call it? As it's people that are abusing their position and taking advantage of it and misusing it. Now, you could call that fraud. And I think it's fair if you want to call that fraud. That's one way to explain it. But that's not necessarily the term that I would use. I would say it's literally, well, like, fraud is... I mean, like, we're getting into specifics here, okay? We all agree it's bad, right? So, what's the word that we're going to use that says that it's bad? Oh, I don't really know. But
gross negligence could be... like, if this isn't money laundering, it's definitely gross negligence.
But that's up to you. You mean mismanagement. I think that it is mismanaged to such an extreme degree that it is done intentionally. I think that's what's happening.
Okay, well. A lot of crazy stuff going on these days, guys. Elon Musk destroying woke... Oh, no. That was from 2 months ago. Okay, that's not relevant right now. But yeah, I'm gonna try to finish Borderlands 3 this weekend. We'll see. But if I find anything else interesting, I'll cover it. But yeah, crazy shit going on, guys. Just one movie plot after another with what's going on around us, eh? Looks like Iraq's not getting their Sesame Street, I guess. God. What the fuck are we doing? Anyway, I gotta get to work.